Yo,
What's up?
marinating. What are you saying?
What am I what?
Oh, I said I was marinating. What are you saying?
I am standing on my porch. It's so beautiful outside. I'm about to sit down and do actual work, hopefully.
Mm, mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. It's like, I don't know. There's something, I make fun of that whole biophilia together alone, but I'm really making fun of myself. Because sometimes I hate myself for wanting to do this. Does that make sense?
Say it one more time.
So it's like, the whole idea of together alone is that we suffer from the innate desire to be around other people.
Right. Yeah, that's all.
And and I suffer from that the most, right? As the
So what you're
host.
saying is you're addicted to Twitter Spaces too, but like you just don't say it
A
out
little
loud.
bit. Yeah. Because I was talking to Casey, like, when it's helpful, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
So you get these intermittent pellets of business Coca-Cola, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I've been struggling with that in the last 48 hours. Well, 72 hours, a lot. Like when your spaces aren't up, like I am, the recording of your spaces is like, it's a problem because like sometimes I want to have, not that it's my problem, not yours, but like sometimes I'm wanting to have, like that less recorded type of conversation. um like for instance, like,
Right. I forgot to do that.
yeah, so Peter hosted a space one Saturday or Sunday, and a sex worker from Australia came in,
Hmm.
and like we had, I mean, it was probably one of the best conversations I've heard in a Twitter space, bar none. And like,
Right.
I don't know that like she or even myself or the other people.
Those dynamics would happen in
Yeah,
a
yeah,
recorded space. Yeah.
exactly. At the same time, it's all a farce, right? Everything's recorded. I used to tell people, and it's a saying, what, don't put anything in writing that you wouldn't want, printed on the front page of the New York
Right.
Times. So
Yeah.
to that end, though, the same thing goes for on Facebook, or and people just were putting their entire lives on Facebook, and then being surprised when someone used it against them, saying, "Oh, you didn't cheat. You didn't cheat. Well, here's you making out with whatever on this date. And here's
Hmm.
the video. It was first. It was, here's what you wrote. Then it was, here's a photograph that was posted of you, and then it was, here's the live streaming video of you literally pulling the trigger, hyperbolically and in real life, like, or like literally."
Hmm.
And with Twitter, like in general, or with all social media, I have always been very cautious about the things that I write down as my posts.
Hmm.
But with Twitter Spaces, I kind of just threw caution to the fucking wind and it was like, fuck it, assume the risk. And that's okay though, because it's kind of coming out of your shell. Like, not everyone can be perfect, and I'll just have to rely on the fact that there's so much data that people are going to be able to find the stupid shit that I've said. Like, everyone
Right.
says stupid shit. Like, and to not understand that. Like, there was a guy in Congress during the thing that had to do with Black Lives Matter, but he, it was F the pigs or something like that, was a post that he made on Twitter, and the
Right.
congressman, or the whoever the elected official was, I don't know who it was, held up like an enlarged version of the tweet, and he was like, "I have a real problem with this, sir. Like, is this what, like, the how, this is bad. Like, why, how dare you like make a comment like in this way about law enforcement?" And I that's I don't I don't think anybody should be subjected to like some random one-off thought or emotional response to something as to impugn their character when it comes to their professional, in a professional capacity.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I think it's performative by the elected official, but at the same time, it carries weight, and I don't know why I'm still
It
talking.
just shows
Yeah.
it can be your mouth can be turned against you. Uh, like that. I found the only response that works for me is the Trump defense, where if somebody says something about you that's bad, you joke about it and say something worse. I found that's like the only defense that kind of works. Because if you
For
apologize,
you.
mhm,
Yeah,
for
for
me,
you and the
yeah.
specialness of yourself. Just kidding.
How would you guys handle it? Somebody brings up something and it's like, oh shit.
I was railed in court the other day, but I think that the attorney is see it now we're in court space. I do have concerns about this particular attorney's mental capacity for life right now, and has already raked me over the coals in a different case involving the same parties, and I'm actually working on a letter to the court about it now. But like he, he's like, this attorney did da 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 da, she da 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 da, like she didn't da da. And first of all, most of the things he said were just like not true, and were like, he was accusing me of things that like were literal, like, like lose your license type of things. And he's going on and on. And I'm trying not to object to it because
Wow.
it's like, it's not about me. Like, and it's also baseless and not relevant. And the court, like the judge was like, I don't know why you're talking about that here. This is not, like, what does that have to do with whether or not, your
Right.
client is the person who should be performing the duties of this probate? And so, because that's so outsized, his like vitriol towards me is so outsized that like it's a special situation at the same time.
Hmm.
Like, that's public record, and good God, like the transcript, I didn't even know what
Wait,
to say.
does he like you?
What?
Does he like you? Because that's what boys used to do in like high school. If they like a girl, they like.
No. Well, yeah. So, but you're thinking about it when you're like, I have a duty to my client and advocating for my client, and my client is the estate. It is actually not the people sitting next to me. It is the estate and basically the beneficiaries of that estate. I have to do what's in the best interest of the beneficiaries as to the whole. And so, me standing up and wasting everyone's time at a billable rate to say this guy's a lunatic is really not worth it. And so I chose to, say, opposing
Uh-huh.
counsel, he said a lot of things and I have a lot of thoughts about that, but this is really not about me. And, I'm not going to stand here and defend myself against these allegations in the way that they're being made. And, luckily, I do think it's like a dementia situation for this guy, or dementedness for him. So I'm just struggling with how to kind of, do I turn him, do I go to the professional conduct people, but first comes the client. So I've kind of put him and my personal feelings on the back burner. But it kind of comes back to what has been put out there, and print can be used against you later. We're going to have a problem as a society when all of these now millennials were posting random shit, at frat parties or running for office. Like, anyway.
Yeah, they call it omnivalence. Like you know how you have surveillance and surveillance. There's omnivalence where everyone's recording each other.
Yeah, it's terrifying. To the cabin by the lake, I wish to go.
That Cabin in the Woods movie was really good. You ever see that?
That was a
No,
great
I
movie.
didn't.
One of my favorites.
Right? They really like leaned in. I've never seen. Well, I mean, there's other examples, but that was a really great example of sarcastic horror. It's one of my favorite genres.
That tracks.
I think anything sarcastic is your favorite genre, man.
Is that what this? Is that what Twitter Spaces is? Sarcastic
You're
horror.
you're on sarcastic vacation. Your permission to be full sarcastic. You're a sarcastic
Yeah.
ally. You support those that need to express themselves. You allow them to express it in the fullest amount.
That sounds like Ruckus would be like, I really believe that diversity is key. You know what I mean? He can't stop laughing.
Possibly, I don't know.
You know when he says millennials are our future, it's like that's the sarcastic horror.
Well, when he says millennials are our future, it's also kind of like kids are our future. Like, no shit, Sherlock. What else you got?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, young, shrubs grow into trees. Oh, thank
Right,
you for that.
exactly. Where can I write
Now
the
we can
check?
live.
Is it 1800 again? Thank you. Yeah, sorry. No.
Celsius is different than Fahrenheit. Oh,
Mm,
good. Slam fucking. It's like science. Twitter Spaces can be like scientific slam poetry
mm.
sometimes. The galaxies went round and round in a spiral like a Fibonacci. Da da da. Fibonacci named after an Indian, but they changed the name. Colonialism. Shit like that. Scientific slam poetry.
I had a thought
That's my
this
favorite.
morning. I don't know if this is the right thought, but I'm going to go ahead and give out the sequence. So
Wicked.
when a black person robs a place or shoots up a place, there's a lot of talk like, okay, we identify, the race, the person, everything. When it's I just feel like whenever it's a white person that shoots up a place, it's never about the race of the person necessarily when it comes to white, but it's mental health issues or, um, like the denial of the gun stuff with the Tennessee shooting. It just seems, and I'm just like, I get the I understand a lot of the transgender argument. Like yesterday was a weird day where I like watched this clip from these female swimmers who had the male swimmer come in and basically,
Yes, Leah
yeah,
Thomas.
and
Uh-huh.
basically take all the awards. And like,
Their
I get that.
trophy. There was only one trophy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, I totally feel like
Well,
they're
that's
sort of
why I
like,
asked
what
the
the fuck is
Ruckus.
them, right?
Well, that's why I asked Ruckus, how far left are you? Do you believe that everyone should be allowed in the pool?
Well,
That's what I was referring to. Yeah.
yeah, it's a hard place. Like, I want a place for transgenders, but I also understand that women in a locker room probably don't want to see a guy in the locker room changing with full genitalia. Like, I
Yes.
understand that. That's a
Mhm.
norm. Okay, so then,
I,
but I don't want to deny the transgenders' rights. At the same time, like, the guy has more physique and he comes in and he sweeps it's like, I kind of want to put transgender in Special Olympics. And then even then I know that's not right, right? Because I know Special Olympics
yeah,
is
that's sure.
for a different group altogether. And even those people would be like, fuck, that guy's got no disorder, right? So I don't
Hmm.
know. And then when you look at the shooting, a lot of the conversation right now, like none of the conversations going beyond the fact that this is yet another white person going in and shooting up his place. The conversation is not going to be directed toward that. It's going to be, again, guns aren't the issue, right? They're going to fight away from the guns. And then when someone on Fox posted a thing where they were like, well, those side doors may have been unlocked. I'm like, did you watch the footage, pal? Because he shot through the
Yeah.
door.
And
Right? You know what I
stop here.
mean? So I just don't know when we can finally address
Well,
the bigger point, which is what's going on with the whites in America, right? Why can't we talk like that?
well, I
I
mean,
don't know.
to kind of lean into it, like as a brown guy, I didn't feel really good racing against the black people like Ruckus because they were always faster than me.
Mm,
I think they need to make a new league just for them because they're so much faster than us. Like you saw the thing with the woman from Africa who was born. I don't even know how. What's the language now, Ruckus? Can you be born as a woman, or is that something that's decided by something? How does it work? I'm
I,
confused now.
I, I mean, yeah, you could be born as a woman. Until you can decide what you want to be, I guess.
Okay.
But
Well,
there's male and female gender, and
I, I understand like the argument of um, you know avoiding exclusion, but at the same time, if we accept that there are no solutions, only trade-offs, then we're trying to balance rights.
no, I think
You know?
we're putting too much thought into it. Okay, so it's like, hey,
Yes.
I'm going to
Right,
get this
Rocket.
burger. I'm buying this burger from McDonald's, right? It's a burger. I order it as a burger. Now, when I take it home, I dress it up and do whatever I want with it. But at that point, I take it home and it's mine.
mm.
So, do you know what I mean? You put too much thought in it. If you want to customize this burger your way, you bought it, you paid for it, take it home, do what you want to do with it. But when you get
Hold
it
on.
from here, it's a burger.
So So do you believe that everyone should be allowed in the pool, or do you believe that someone who's transitioned, a man transitioning into a woman, should not be allowed in a women's event? What do you think?
Yeah, to me, I believe that I don't want to be in a pool with other people who piss in the pool. Okay, if you have genitalia, I'm fine. But if you pee in the pool, I don't want to be in the pool with you. So I don't go into public pools. I get my
What?
own pool. That's just my personal belief.
I don't know. Hold on. I'm going to ask it again. So, do you think men who transitioned to being a woman should be competing in a women's swimming event?
I mean, yeah, I mean that's I don't have a problem with that. You know, I don't have a
You
problem with
don't have
women.
a problem with that.
No, I don't have a problem with women serving in the military. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of women who can serve in the military better than I can. You know what I mean? Like, they can kick my ass in the military. You know, go serve. You know what I mean? I can't do it. You know, I can't swim like that. I'm not competing in swimming. So, yeah, compete. You know, and if you get the second place trophy, you get a second place trophy. If you get a first place trophy, you get a first place trophy. I mean, there are a lot of women who can beat men at swimming. And you know, that's just my thought on it.
Hold
I
on.
do
So,
I do
so you're saying there's a lot of women that can beat transition to man in swimming?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You think so?
I have a girl on my block. She's on our swim team and she's younger than her brother. Brother's like, physically fit, like, but he's a football player and he can swim his butt off, but she beats him every year. You know what I mean? I mean, and
Hmm.
I think Ruckus got dropped down by the equity team.
Oh man.
You know how it is.
Hmm.
Oh well.
Indeed.
So otherwise, yeah, I saw that video too. I've been following it. I've been following it ever since the MMA thing happened.
Hmm.
Because the MMA thing was like, you want to see something like gruesome,
What's the
right?
MMA thing? What?
You ever see Fallon Fox?
Oh.
Fallon Fox was a man who transitioned to a woman that fought in MMA.
Hmm. Yeah.
You can imagine how that fight went. You know,
Yeah.
he was actually I think he was formerly in the military before he transitioned to a woman. Is she?
Interesting. What do you got for us, Ruben?
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, anyway, so I
Welcome
don't
to
know
the
why
Syndicate, hit
I'm
please.
just whenever a white person commits a crime, it's about everything but the fact the person was white. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know, I just think that's just kind of it's a drag in a lot of ways. And of course, the footage they've released with the shooter is that's one ballsy. I mean, they're like showing us more stuff than we've ever seen before. Like here are the stickers on the gun. That was interesting. Like the guns were, sort of mocked up to, they had stickers and Pokemon and anime and shit on them, right? Whatever.
Yeah, because they were UX creative people. That to me is the
That's the
scariest part.
scariest thing. And yeah, so you have that going on. And the person is okay transgender, but clearly this person is dressed in the like they're dressed to the nines, right? This is a person that got mentored, right? This is a person that got mentored on how to hold a gun, how to position a gun, how to do the field tactical, sweeping and all this shit. This
Well,
was all taught by somebody else. This person learned this shit
the
from, you
the
know what I
other
mean?
thing I noticed though, like, is now that I did the gun course, I was looking at they have this channel on YouTube where it's a video side by side of like different army video games, and they compare how each of the different types of guns that exist are loaded in different games, and and although they're a bit fantastical, like Terminator doing that revolving lever action gun thing on the bike in Terminator 2,
Mhm.
but some of them are pretty kind of realistic. And I was like, oh shit, you could more or less learn how a gun is loaded, like a regular revolver, by just playing a video game, because they're actually using a weapon, and it's like
Same dynamics.
one of the features is that it's realistic,
Yeah.
right? But I want to shout out Quinn Ruckus. Quinn is the comic I played you the comedy of.
Oh, nice. Man, you're funny. Enjoy it.
Thank you, man. Much
Yeah, nice to
appreciated.
see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the Reynolds rap is I really contemplated that before in real
So,
life.
which
and
one?
Well, not the Reynolds rap, the Saran
Oh,
wrap,
surround. Oh,
as a
word. Of
condom.
course.
Yeah, I've really actually thought about using that. I
Yo,
mean, when I was
when you're that
younger.
serious, of course. You're very serious
Yeah,
about your
because
health. Yeah.
well, because I didn't have any condoms, so I thought if I go get like a baggie, like a sandwich bag, would that work? You know what I mean? Because would a sandwich bag work in like Reynolds wrap when you're going through the drawers? That resonated with me a bit. You know.
Are you doing that thing where you put on the saran wrap and then you put on some chili sauce and then you put on some more saran wrap just in case, one of them doesn't work
Nah,
out?
the chili
No.
sauce is after the fact. Like
Yeah,
that. When you're done, you chili sauce for sure.
Got it. Yeah,
Got
go
it.
down there and put chili sauce on it, strawberries, whatever. You got to clean up what you mess up, basically. So the chili sauce comes in handy. I could see that. But the wrap around the penis is, you don't want to.
Did you say penis is plural?
Penises.
Wait, are we talking about a wraparound penis? How the hell did we get to
No,
this?
no, 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 no,
If you
no,
hold
no,
it with
no,
two
no,
hands,
no.
it's plural, right?
Quinn, can you explain, or Ruckus, maybe you can explain to Dan how the Saran wrap is used in the hood? Or go ahead, Marco. Maybe you can explain.
Hey, I'm up on the latest stuff, man. I know about lean. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, Marco.
No, I can't explain. I wanted to go back to something that Rockus said earlier around the swimming pools. Rockus, I like your thinking, but I believe your strategy is very, very flawed because if I recall, I think you do have children. So you said you wouldn't go into a public pool because people pee in the pool, so that's why you have your own pool. But actually, you need to have two pools because, as you well know, your kids will pee in the pool. So you need to have a kid swimming pool in your backyard, and you need to have your own swimming pool because then you will categorically know that no one else has peed in the pool apart from you if you decide to dribble in the pool. So I just wanted to point that out on that shut up.
No, you're absolutely right. And we have a pool in our community, and the kids swim there every day, every summer. And I sit and I watch the bathroom door, and I'm like, no one's going to pee. No one is getting out of the pool to pee. And I tell my kids, I'm like, you guys swam for 8 hours and you didn't have to pee? And they're like, well, Dad, we sleep for 8 hours and we don't pee in a bed either, do we?
That feels a bit OCD, Rockus. If you're going to a public swimming pool and all you're doing is watching the bathroom door.
It sounds creepy. It
does.
sounds creepy.
It
I know it
does.
sounds bad. It sounds bad, but I'm like, no one's getting out of the pool and pee.
Do you know what, Rockus? I've now got a mental picture, and it's going to stick with me, and that's probably the funniest thing I've heard all year. So thank you for that.
Incredible. Hey,
When you say, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, when you say staring at the bathroom door, are you thinking like at a distance, like 40 feet, sunglasses, or are you more like, pipe with a monocle, 4 feet away?
Like, pretending I'm reading a magazine, my head low, and just kind of watching the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're like an FBI agent in the park. Yeah.
But you know what? I don't have
He
a
wears
problem.
a big floppy hat.
Yeah.
He wears a big floppy hat. Not a big hat.
I don't have a problem swimming in the ocean. Like, we went on vacation, I was in the water every day. And my son's like, but don't whales pee and poop in the ocean? I'm like, yeah, but that's fine to swim in whale shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's nature. You know what I mean? Like, somehow in my mind, that's better than swimming in a public pool.
Yeah. Question for you guys. Dan, Ruckus, are there a comedy club? Is comedy a thing in Ohio? That sounds like a weird question.
It's
Yeah, we have Funny Bone.
yeah. Chappelle lives here,
Funny
you
bone?
know, and it's
Oh, right.
the comedy in general is frowned upon in the Midwest. But go ahead.
No, we do own rights to Dave Chappelle. So Dan's right.
And we don't believe Kevin Hart is funny. We just believe he's short. It's the only thing we know for sure.
It's true.
Right. That we can agree on, yeah.
And Snoop Dogg is here, right, Dan? Can you confirm that?
Wait, who lives here? What?
Snoop Dogg?
Yeah,
I've
supposedly
heard he
Snoop
lives.
Dogg has moved into the rural areas of Ohio to mix in with the poor whites.
Solid. I could see that.
I've been to
I mean, that's the target. Oh, go
I've
ahead.
been to Cleveland before. It was a wicked time. I was out there.
Ew.
And
We don't talk about
damn, I
Cleveland.
didn't know it was like that. Shit, I had the time of my life.
Ew. I mean,
There
What's in
was a
Cleveland?
beach there. I did a couple shows, and there was like a beach. I think it was like a
Ew.
man-made beach or some shit. Yeah, man, it was
Ew.
fucking lit. I don't know. I'm sorry you guys had such a bad time, man. I had a great experience.
Yeah, Cleveland is
Ew.
something we don't really talk about that much
We
in Ohio, but
don't talk about Cleveland because ew.
Yeah.
Is a man-made beach when somebody adds land to water, or when they add water to land?
You dig a hole and you pour
Mhm.
water into it, and some people pay thousands of dollars to do that in their backyard. Pay for a puddle that they pee in when they can just swim in their own toilets.
Jeez, Marcus.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being a little.
You're really philosophical today.
I've
You're
had
like,
a week. I've had a week of returning to emails, bullcrap emails. So I'm
okay,
sorry.
that's what it is.
Yeah,
Rockus,
I've had a
Rockus
week.
is on fire today.
I'm sorry. I've had a week. It's
If I had a fire emoji, I'd be blasting that at you right now, Rockus. But I don't.
I had to take a call, but I want to finish my thought. I don't mind the transgender. I was raised to accept everyone, and I do have kids, as Marco mentioned, and when I do watch football games or baseball games, and I think, man, if my daughter was good at baseball or basketball or whatever, would she be able to compete on an all male team? And I would like to hope that she would. I don't, I don't like I think it's a little segregated for female, male, but I understand why it's that way. But, when you see the all-star basketball team, and you see women playing with men, they're pretty good. I think that should be more of a thing. Um, um,
Maybe mixed games is a way to explore that. Like exhibition mixed games kind of thing.
yeah,
I could see that.
And then, women basketball players, they don't get paid a lot, you know, overall women's sports to get paid very low unless you're a phenom like the Williams sisters or something like that. Then you make a lot of money. But I do want to be able to tell my daughter, be the best you can be and you can do whatever you want. But is that true in the real world?
Here in the just a fact for you, here in the UK, I want to say it was probably a year ago. It might have been 2 years ago. They introduced into amateur grassroots football. And when I say football, it's what you guys butcher as soccer, so the real football. Boys and girls can play on the same team. And that's been going on for about 2 years. I think it's up until about the age of 15 or 16. So you can have mixed teams in amateur leagues.
That's amazing. I like that. And I don't want to assume that my daughter could take a hit. Let's say my daughter gets plowed, or bad word there. She gets hit really hard from a guy on a football, on a team. then, you know, it will be her decision to be like, boy, you know, that guy's bigger than I am. I took a hit. This isn't for me. Or I need to learn how to avoid that hit or wear heavier pads or whatever. Um, you know, so the decision would be up to her. But I do like the idea of we have a co-ed flag football and co-ed. What's that? What's that thing that kids are doing now? Lacrosse. We have co-ed lacrosse too.
Zach, how dare you talk about lacrosse that way? Don't you know Zach is a lacrosse superstar?
Is he? I didn't know that. That's the number one sport for girls right now. Scholarship is
Oh,
lacrosse. Yeah.
that's a good one, Zach.
It's the fastest growing sport in the United States. And I think in the world, it was at one point the fastest growing in the world. Yeah. I
No, you're
dabble.
wrong about that, Zach. Zach, you're wrong about it being the fastest growing in the world. It only is.
I said at one point.
Yeah, no, it only is. I know you're biased, you see, because again, you've fallen into that trap that the America is the world. So I think you were right the first time when you said it's the fastest growing sport in America.
What do you think Frolf is taking over? I've seen more frisbee videos recently.
No, to be fair though, because I was only joking. Yeah, I think it was the fastest growing sport in the world at one point. I don't think it is now, but I think at one stage it was. Just sheer
I
weight
mean,
of numbers.
technically, when it goes from one player to two players, that's like doubling at the speed, you know. So like, if it's there was a 5 second increment where like the first 5 second period there was one player, the second 5 second period there was two players. That's doubling the speed every 5 seconds. That's got to be, you know, quick.
Well,
I played for Team USA, and it was really intriguing seeing some of like the countries that it was like their first time being at the World Games and just being like, oh wow, like this is expanding because I watched the World Games for U19 3 years earlier, and it was like 6 teams, and then when I got to play, there was 30 teams playing, so it was pretty cool. So that was just the expansion in 3 years. So, but that was fun.
I was just going to say on the sports things, you know, what I think certain sports employ the human weight differently. Does it make sense? So, in an extreme place like mixed martial arts, the weight classes really matter, like really matter. And you see, like, you know, if you see like, there's not many people who can go up in weight and be successful because the power is different. You know, the torque is different, the explosiveness is different.
I kind of want to see sumo wrestlers and jockeys for horse racing switch out for a week.
I think that it's to be good at a sport is difficult. To be great at a sport is improbable. Like, there's so much that goes into being in the top 1% of athletes. And I think that when we have this discussion about males and females, we look at these exceptions and think that they're natural. Like, every person who's in the NFL is an exception to the rule of athletics. They're not the rule. And so to think about being competitive on that level, I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen just think about NBA. Brian Scalabrine, I think is his name, the White Mamba. He's the guy who like barely ever played for the Celtics. He is like the worst player on that team, and he put out like an open thing of like, I don't care where you went to school, I don't care if you played D1. Let's get on the court, and you can just see how bad I am. And he just roasted all of these people who are like D1, like low D1 players. Like, the difference between someone who makes it in the NBA and everyone else is there's such a despairing like giant gap. And that's the question is like, could females compete at levels? Sure. Could they ever compete at that level? No. It's you take the I think they took like the top 3 men's soccer players and put them on the pitch with like the one of the world teams, like the best women in that country, and they just destroyed them because the gap is just so much different at the top 1%. Right? It's like
Good point. Yeah.
going and being like, oh, a woman MMA fighter could fight a male MMA fighter, sure, at levels, but they're not going to step in the ring with Conor McGregor and
Right.
like survive. It
So
just
you're saying as you go from like the 1% to the 2 to 5%, there might be more competitiveness.
I think if you took the top 1% of women athletes and put them up against the top 1% of male athletes, it's not going to end well. If you took the top 1% of women athletes and put them up against the top maybe 10%, excluding that 1% of men, it might be competitive. And as you move standard deviations back towards the
That
mean,
makes
it's
sense
going
to
to
me.
get more and more competitive.
That makes sense to me.
But we look at this and we say these things like, are you saying women aren't as strong as men? And then in your mind, you're picturing like with the new military fitness test, as we continuously are like, oh, women can do what men do on this test. And it's not true because you think of this one woman who made it through Ranger School and can do 100 pull-ups and can do these things. And you're taking this outlier and trying to put all women on the scale of this one outlier. And so we do this consistently as we just believe that everyone is the outlier when really we're all just the mean.
I just
Go
want
ahead.
to add to what Zach said. If you guys have not if you don't know about the Brian Scalabrine thing, look it up on YouTube. It is absolutely hilarious. And what he did was I just want to add to what Zach was saying. What he did was actually go online and see the people talking trash about him on Twitter, who were like, how the fuck is this guy in the NBA? He's trash, he's garbage, whatever. And then he was challenging them to one-on-one basketball. And the trash talk was so epic because he's eating these guys' food. Like, he's hitting shots in their face, post up, telling them moves he's gonna do. He's beating them like 10-0. He's literally laughing at them. And there was one where a guy he looks at the guy and he goes, yo, I'm closer to LeBron than you'll ever be. This other guy was like, yo, Zach, he's like, yo, Brian, you're trash. And he goes, yeah, I mean, I may be bad, but you are shit because you're worse than me. And Brian Scalabrine, I think if you look it up, I think he has 2 rings. So I think he got a ring with Boston and a ring with the San Antonio Spurs. It is epic to watch. It is super funny. But also, go ahead.
I think he's done 250 one-on-one
And beat 'em
matches
all.
based on
And
this
beat 'em
whole
all.
white
Yeah.
beat them
Yeah.
all and has never lost, and he's open to
Yeah,
any challenge.
it's great. It's absolutely epic. Another thing is, and just to piggyback on what Zach was saying, I was a semi-pro skater for 7 years, and same thing when you talk about the gap between semi-pro skaters and actual pro skaters, it is so vast, like ridiculously vast, that it's the same thing when you watch tennis and you watch the same 6 people rotate between top 5 in the world. I mean, and then the rest of them are just like nothings. It's the same thing. That gap is so immense, and I think people minimize that with the one exception to the rule. But it's not realistic. So yeah.
Well, all we know
Zach,
for
what's the
sure is
latest?
that transgenders are out to kill Americans, right? I guess that's the message. Some kind of message like that.
That's not true.
No, I know it's
Zach,
not
what's
true,
the
but I
latest?
mean that's the current. That's what
Yeah.
the right is going to throw at me here. Sure, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Silly. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just wondering, Zach. Last time I talked to you, you were doing uh, disaster recovery operations uh, with some of the folks. How's that going?
Well, I think that oh, I don't know. It's interesting to see individuals who you come on here and everything's kind of like hunky dory, and then you go into like certain rooms and it's like, oh my God, Armageddon's coming, and then you go into other rooms and it's like, great, Armageddon's coming because now Bitcoin's going to be everyone's like first choice, and then you go in another room and everyone's talking about like how Bitcoiners suck, and so it's just very interesting how if you create your own reality with the app. So I've been really into that. Is like just depending on where you go and who you follow and how you build your algorithm, it's going to show you what reality you want. So I got off with a
Wow.
client yesterday who is in he does like huge like $1 million distressed business deals, and so like he dropped everything and flew out to San Francisco for when all of this stuff started. So he's just looking at where the opportunity comes. So interesting.
I have mixed feelings uh, about people in distressed assets. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed with their like hard business nose debt land like BK7 like should I buy this now or should I wait 2 months when I'm pretty sure it's going to be in chapter 7 and I don't think there's any going to be other bidders. Like they're like somewhere between like a scavenger and a shark. Uh, but like clever girl from Jurassic Park style. Like it's simultaneously
So
terrifying and impressive.
what I like about this client is he is way before it goes to distressed. And so he gets phone calls from lawyers or accountants who are like, hey, I think this person's business is going to become distressed.
Damn.
And he goes in before it ever is like bankruptcy and is like, let's salvage what we can so that you as a business owner can like not be on the hook for all this stuff. Let's try to get you as much as you can, because he has all the connections to like the larger distressed, like you said, the vultures and the sharks.
Yeah.
And so he's coming in way before to try to stabilize as much as he can so that the vultures and the sharks can't take advantage uh, as we tend to see. So I was like, oh, that's an interesting way. He's like, I feel like it's no one's doing that, but he's like, the issue is that most of these people call me like when it's already too late.
Hmm.
He's like, if they call me like 5 months before, there's so much we could do, but most of them it's just trying to salvage like something reputable to put out to the market.
There's already a gut wound or something, right?
It,
Yeah.
it
Like
sounds
once you
like
miss payroll.
an investor that's both short and long.
It's a deal makey type investor. It's a transactional investor, I would say, right? At least that's my experience. I have limited experience, but I have found the humans who hang around in that world to be some of the most hyper rational humans that I've met in my life,
Mm.
because it's dangerous to get emotionally involved in those kinds of decisions.
Interesting. It's kind of like the same thing with like, there's those infomercials on buying distressed properties that are about to be in bankruptcy and shit like that. You can
Hmm.
get them cheap, clean it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, the mantra in some circles is you make the money by buying low, not by selling high, right? At least reliably, for sure. And I get it. You know, it's part of life. I don't think I'm ever going to be on the venture side. I think I'm always going to be on the startup side. But if I were, um, I had a couple of theses. One of them was going to be cockroach capital, where you turn up and we always say no. 100% of the time we say no, and then a year later, if you haven't died, come back again, and we'll take another look at it. Wait a minute, you're not dead? Interesting. Okay, what you got? And the other one was going to be like actual vulture capital, um, where once everybody else had said no, you come to us, and we'll just offer you a terrible deal.
That
But we
would
tell
be
you up front, you know.
that would be interesting. If someone pitched you by showing, and you included all your rejection letters.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was watching that shooting video, and I'm just kind of looking at their guns and how they reload and how they hold the gun, and keeping your fingers straight to make sure that it's not in the trigger guard. And you can see them doing these operations where it's like one guy goes first into a room, right, backed up by another guy, and they're looking left and right, and then the third guy is tagged in to be first on the next one, and they go through this rotation of back and forth, switching whoever goes first.
Are
It's
you talking
fascinating.
about Battle Drill 6, like CQB?
Well, I'm talking about you saw the footage from the Nashville police.
No, I don't.
Um,
I'm sorry, but
mhm,
I
mhm,
don't watch any shooting videos of like
mhm.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I just watched them doing that operation of tagging each other as they walk through. It was interesting to see.
yeah, so that's CQB Battle Drill 6. Um, so what it is essentially hitting your mark as you clear through, and then you're doing a bound over the first man in, and then stacking up and re-entering, and then pieing the corner, and then moving in. So, well, a lot of different little techniques.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like a pick and roll in sports, where it's like this kind of predefined dance that they're doing. It was I guess because I've been, managing people a little more lately. It's like all of these ways that people really spend a lot of time in coordinating things. It's fascinating.
If you if you ever want to do like a Battle Drill 6 CQB class, and you're in the States, just let me know, because
Mm-hmm.
you can definitely learn a lot about um, coordination that way. But the biggest thing to know is that it's about your wall marks. So
Okay.
the issue a lot of people have when they're just learning CQB is every room is a different size, and how far down the room you move is important to your
Right.
being out of the um, muzzle
Mm-hmm.
angle of the other people in the room.
Right.
So
Yeah. That was because, like, one of the cardinal sins in the gun class was never sweep. Right. Sweeping is like the worst thing you can do. So,
yeah, so for us, you sweep, but you sweep only from where you're supposed to down the wall, halfway down the wall to this corner, and then the next person's from that corner to this corner, the other person's from this corner to halfway down the wall, and you never move more than halfway down the wall. If you're the one man, your first objective is to button hook, get to the corner, and turn, clear far corner to middle wall, nothing else, because the first man in, right, if you're going to button hook first, then the next person is flow into the corner, depending on which way the door opens. Because that first guy in is not supposed to be the one to engage targets in basic CQB, because they're just what we call the rabbit. They just draw fire away from the doorway. So that's why you push that guy in as hard as you can. Or you switch and that guy flows in depending on which way the door opens, and then the next guy's a button hook. And the third guy's first to really engage.
Incredible.
But it just depends on size of room. And so we had, in my first unit, we had this, what we called like our Battle Drill 6, like training ground right behind our little company area. And we go out there and it was all movable walls. And so you could just change it to be any room configuration you wanted. And then it had scaffolding above. And so you could do all sorts of sized rooms. You could put furniture. We had movable furniture in there. So you could like go in and there'd be immediately a couch. And then, how do you flow in? How are you engaging? And so you would go in with no weapons. You would just flow in and go bang, 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 bang. And you'd be saying it like, this is what I'm doing as you're going. And then you change everyone on the wall. So if we had nothing to do, if we had nothing going on during the day, we had no missions or we had nothing to prep for. That's how we spent our time, was just practicing that, practicing those maneuvers just over and over and over again. No weapons, nothing, just learning how to instinctually know what you're supposed to do based on. So we'd run hundreds and thousands of configurations of rooms and people and everything. So
that makes sense. I literally sat with a notepad beside this semi-automatic, and I'm like, okay, so this is the way I do it. I do my axe improve, and now when I make sure that it's unloaded, for sure, nothing in the chamber, nothing in the magazine. Okay, so how do we do it next? Okay, so this is how I fill the magazine, and this is how I put it in, and this is how I put something in the chamber. It was like, I'd never been that close to something so powerful before.
Yeah, and then once you have it, you can do what we call ready up drills. So like my first time at the unit, I didn't get to. The only thing I got to do with my weapon, I didn't get to go and do any of these cool Battle Drill 6 rooms. Like only all the older soldiers got to do that. I was stuck just doing ready up drills. So like while they're all practicing in the shoot house, all I'm doing is standing over on the side like an idiot, and the NCO over me is going ready up, and like I just have to raise it from the like safe position, raise it up, acquire target, flip switch, put it back on safe, weapon down. And so I'm just sitting there working the safety and acquiring targets for, I think I did that for maybe 3 months, and that's all I got to do when we had free. That was it. I didn't get to do anything else, and I hated my life. But I never had an ND, which is a negligent discharge incident.
Yes.
And so,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I started watching videos of like negligent discharge videos on YouTube, and it's like, yo, I'm so glad I went through this training, because even though I don't necessarily want to own a gun, I'm comforted by the fact that if I'm around one and I have to engage with it, I'll know what to do. It's very comforting.
yeah, most people fuck up because they don't know what to do, and they pick up a gun. Like, you go to a friend's house and they're like, hey, check out what I got. And then you pick it up and you pull the trigger, not realizing that they run one in the chamber because you haven't gotten into the habit of clearing it but the first time you pick it up. Like, And so that's I had a friend who ND'd with a 50 cal machine gun on top of a
Ooh.
Humvee once. That was pretty fucking hilarious.
It's I don't know. It was the engineering on it is and the controls are elegant. Like just like the idea of the going from the single action to the double, and there's a safety involved and the safety changes, things like that.
Look at the engineering and the action of an MK-19. So in the military, there's two pretty large weapon systems that can be mounted on a Humvee that we use, and it's the Mark 19 and the 50
Those,
cal.
those bullets are huge.
They're grenades.
Oh my
So it's a grenade machine gun.
What?
But all of the pieces for the Mark 19 are laser cut. And like if you nick just one of them, it will fail to fire. And so when you're doing like cleaning your weapon system for the Mark 19 and the 50 cal, and you're like taking it apart, you'll see the adage in the infantry is like the 50 cal is your bitch, and the Mark 19 is your baby, because like you lay down a cloth for the Mark 19, you're like setting all the pieces down really nice on the cloth, and with the 50 cal, you're just like throwing them on the ground. You don't give a shit because that thing will fire regardless. So it's just the precision of the Mark 19 to be able to full auto shoot machine grenades is pretty incredible.
I'm watching it now. Jeez. Yeah, I saw one of these like stand guns blow up in a guy's arms, like, and he had like luckily like he didn't lose any limbs or anything like that. But one of the scary things is you consider like these things misfiring if the weapon isn't cleaned on a regular basis.
Yeah, the pressure that can build up in a barrel is pretty incredible, even with just like a small round. So that's one of those things, is like when I talk about like priorities of work, and like when people are like, how do I decide what's a priority? I usually use priorities of work, and they're usually pretty astounded that in the military, when we talk about priorities, the first thing is obviously security. Because if you're worried about your security, you can't focus on anything else. And then after that, really it's mission planning and then weapons maintenance. Like we clean our weapon as soon as we have a time, like a stop. We'll put 50% security, which means 50% of people are cleaning their weapon while the other 50% are staring down their sights, anticipating someone, and then they switch. So,
So even with the most modern weapons technology, there's still maintenance is still a part of a regular day.
Yeah, so like the whole reason you hear about this whole like, oh, I can take apart my rifle with a blindfold on in 35 seconds and all this like movie crap, um, is because not because taking it apart and putting it together is a cool thing, but you're going to be in the dark. Uh, you're going to stop your movement at 1 a.m. You're going to put up 50% security and spend 20 minutes. You're going to get 20 minutes to clean your weapon so that it won't misfire the whole next day. So, that level of maintenance, because carbon builds up in the barrel, carbon builds up in the gas tube, carbon builds up in the. So, speaking about a M4, the gas
Mhm.
tube gets clogged. Dirt from, as you're bounding, and your
Yes,
weapon just
yes,
kind of
right.
digs through the dirt. A lot of that gets fixed based on just good muzzle awareness. I've seen a lot of people that just put their barrel of their weapon in the dirt, just thinking like, oh, okay. Like, or I saw one person use it as a fucking crutch to get off the ground, and I was like, oh my God. But yeah, so like, you know, stuff gets in the barrel, it gets in the chamber. The dust cover opens every time you shoot, and then shit flies in, especially if you're in sandy environments. So, yeah, maintenance is still just a thing you have to do to succeed.
I can see there being like a ritual of priorities at work for organizations. Like they might run their sprint differently. Like, let me ask you this: if you have a sprint, like a 30-minute stand up or a 20-minute stand up with all the developers, how would you use like this priorities of work and stuff like that? How would you change that meeting?
I'd have to know more about like what it is that they're working on, but I think that just like understanding that like at least in this part of it is like you're the old I think that the old saying about like if you're gonna go chop down a tree, if you have to chop down a tree in the next 3 hours, like spend 2 hours like sharpening your axe. Like that's the same thing with any kind of weapon system. So yeah. Anyway, I jumped into the room to talk to Ruben about what he was working on, but now he's gone. So, Ruckus, how's it going? Going full time?
What do you mean, like full time?
Yeah, just building your own thing and you know, not having to work for the man.
I'm not. I'm still working for the man. I haven't. We haven't deviated, you know, into freelancing. That we haven't gone that route yet. So yeah, I'm part of the system, so I'm pretty plugged in. You know, being you know, part of the, you know, boomer culture in that aspect, but still learning a lot from, you know, the millennials and how young people move and the freelancing and all that. So thanks for asking. I hope you're not disappointed.
No, not disappointed at all.
Yeah.
I think that that client of mine who started that UserBee, he just made contact with a new co-founder, and
Okay, cool.
I don't think they're going to pursue that actually.
Okay, cool.
I think they're going into home healthcare tech, and they're going to turn UserBee into a project that can potentially help with future angel investments when he transitions from founder to potential VC or investor. So
yeah, that's awesome. It's exciting times. I'm definitely watching it. We're definitely keeping an eye on everything, and you know, and you guys are very inspiring. I still, you know, believe we are in a time where a lot of innovation and a lot of like Uber and things come out of, you know, the bad times that look bad, but they're not bad. Yeah, you know, kudos to everyone, especially the young people, you guys who are making things happen and making it work. We're just exit, you know, trying to exit debt. You know what I mean, and keep our heads down and get we got our car paid off, so that's no more car payment for us, hopefully for a while, and we'll put, you know, get our mortgage paid off hopefully in about 6 years. So then keeping an eye on the labor shortage. We think that there will be a massive need for bodies, which will create value for us. So,
do you think the massive need for bodies is going to deteriorate should this recession come to fruition?
that's a great question. If you look at the past recessions that we've had in the past 2 or 3 years, we've had, a couple, recessions. The youth have eaten through it. And there are multiple reasons why they've eaten through it, because they have less debt. And so we believe that young people will just eat right through the recession, as they've done in the last 2 or 3 years. Again, there are some things like student loans that will pick back up in August. Anything around 5 to 10% unemployment, I won't ring the bell until 8%. I've been in 8 to 10% unemployment, so I know what that kind of looks like. But I'm watching the youth. I think they have less debt. They think they have a lot of debt, and they'll just eat right through it. They won't. They won't. They won't. It won't hurt them as much as it will. The pullback will be my generation, because we have the mortgage, the kids, the cars, the student loan. We have everything else. So we'll slow down, but I don't think they'll slow down. So it'll be interesting to see. I gave it till June. Will tax refund run out, and people have to stand on their own 2 feet. But it looks like tax refund. They've been paying their bills. They'll reload, reset, get ready for the summer and travel again. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but I think they'll eat right through it. And again, I think a lot of it will have to do with the transfer of wealth from boomers to their children, helping them out, propping them up, standing them up. Not all, but some. I think that's what we're going to be looking at.
Interesting. Interesting. I have a very, I guess, different thought process in what I think is going to happen, but
go ahead if you want to share.
I think that the reason why the youth was able to eat through recessions in the past is because they I think that the recessions were opportunities for companies to get rid of higher cost employees that have been there for a long time from like older generations. And you could hire 2 or 3 college graduates for the same price. But I think that the last time we had a recession of the magnitude of which people are talking about, there wasn't social media and there wasn't so much information available. And so I think that the younger group, I don't think there's as many people that are in the older generation available to work and available to get rid of to make room for the younger generation. And the cost of the younger generation has gone skyrocketing. It's no one thinks that they are a startup or they're a starting employee anymore. They all just think that they're just worth they don't understand that your first 2 years of employment with a company is like they're not getting your best. And if you're leaving before those 2 years is up, they're paying you a wage based on future work, not current work ability. And I don't think people get that. And so I think that if this happens and they have to lay off, they're going to be laying off a group that no one really expects. And right now, I think with the amount of money being put on credit cards, price credit cards, I think it's going to be crazy. So
that
um,
amount that we've used put on credit card is not new though, right? Like 2019, we hit that. We hit record credit card spending, consumer spending.
yeah, but I think
Um,
we in 2019 we hit record credit card spending with a Fed that didn't have rates so high and with a low inflation number, and I think that we are going through with this, like, all the stars are aligning for something that is a little unprecedented in the last I think like 30-40 years.
do you remember when interest or inflation was at 10%? A couple years ago, last year.
Yeah.
Do you remember how the country kind of just spent right through that? Like, if you look on a global scale, we were one of the countries with the lowest inflation, 10%. But look at the spending that we did through that. Like, incredible. Now, there were people who were complaining. I was complaining because a little bit, with gas being $4 or $5 a gallon, Applewood bacon, my favorite, it's like $11. But I managed it because I put some of that stuff back. But the youth, you didn't hear a lot of it. They kind of managed it in a way that they didn't have the debt that I have. And so I believe that inflation should have stayed at 10%, because it was manageable, right? In a way. I mean, yeah, of course I didn't really.
I have to get on this phone call, but I'll be right back.
That's fine.
I got into finance in like 2006, 2007, right around the crash. And I didn't fully appreciate the environment I was in until about 2011, 2012. Because after, we have low interest rates because of 9/11.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So interest rates dropped, and then we pay for it in 2008. And I was like, okay, because you got to understand, like, I went to school for business, and because I hadn't worked, I didn't understand what I was learning in school until things in the work world started falling apart. Does that make sense? Because I'm going to school in 2000, like 2001 is when I go to school. Fucking everything hunky-dory then .com. And you're like, what the fuck? But then after the 2008, I'm like, oh, this is how interest rates work in the long run?
Yes. Yeah.
Because the most simple, the first thing you learn in economics is there's this magic thing called the interest rate. And if you know how it works, it's like a crystal ball for Nostradamus. And the trick is there are things that happen in the short run and then the things that happen in the long run. And that distinction of the difference between the two phases is crazy. And so I saw it for the first time in 2008. Now, when they recovered, I thought the game was going to be up in 2014. I'm like, no way they're going to be able to keep this going this long. And here we are in 2023. And I'm like, wow, how'd they do it? This is, it's almost it's a marvel.
And those things go in cycles, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yeah, and so I'm not, I speak from, I've gotten caught up in cycles where I couldn't afford anything. You know what I mean? Because it was just too expensive at the time, right? And I got screwed. So I get it, but then you wait for the next cycle. What, 7 years, right?
Well, one of the things that people on the right didn't like about Trump was that he was claiming a win for the high value of the stock market. And they thought that was going to bite him in the ass, because if he's saying, hey, I'm responsible for this, if it falls apart, that means you're responsible too. And people look at all the sound clips, right? So it's
Right.
like the politics can also, I guess you can look at the politics or the political expressions as a function of where we are in the economic cycle. That Ray Dalio debt cycle stuff.
Yeah.
So let me think about this. When did Barack get elected?
2008.
2008. So, and he's speaking to people that have just lost their houses. And what is he telling them? We need to make a change. But then again, you could argue that Make America Great Again could have fit just as good.
Michael's a manga. He's gone full manga. Yes, he's full manga now. Michael's gone full manga.
I'm Matt Omega, Make America Guyanese again.
By the way, one of my good friends, potential grifter, has recently moved to Guyana into a town of called Arc, ARCC something. I don't know. Just wanted to bring that up. Can it carry on? But Mike, yeah, I think you're moving a little MAGA, man. You're showing some.
I have to balance.
I think you want Trump to run again.
Oh, I mean, he's going to run again based on
But you want him to win.
the Uber CEO.
And win the nomination, right?
Yeah, he already won. The time is slow. Here's the thing: we inherit our politics from you, right? So that's why, you know what I mean? Like just like our music, right? Drake is created from you guys. The Weeknd is, yeah, right.
Exporting,
what I mean?
exporting our culture, right?
Yeah, the cultural export. So the political export happens too. So if you look at like gun rights in Alberta, which is like middle Canada, like Middle Earth, right? They're arguing that no, we want to hold our guns because people from the city don't have to shoot foxes attacking their chickens and shit like that. You know what I mean? And so it's like you have these port cities and rural towns, describing
He
two different
hasn't gotten the
realities.
nomination yet.
No, he hasn't. I'm not saying he will, but
Yeah.
I don't see.
There's not a non-zero probability, let's say.
Well,
Correct.
no, but
Thank
I
you.
mean, he hasn't got it yet. I want to see every fucking Republican over there cave in and give it to him, knowing full well he's a throwaway president for 4 years and they won't win it. You know what I mean? I want to see them stand up and be able to like, man, I'd really like, is there anybody that has just a retarded dog or anything to compete? You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I can't wait for that. I want to see them fold and like, basically take the knee and suck the cock of the most biggest dumbass again. Like, do it.
Oh, you have me at take the knee. I'm not trying to see anyone suck a cock, but that
But like,
yeah.
what he's leading in the polling,
I
right?
don't know. That's a bow and take the cock, man. I mean, if you ask me, I mean, this is the guy he's basically at an untouchable state. So let's keep it going on the fantasy. I mean,
Yeah. In Poland, we don't like polling, Mike. I mean, it's okay, but it's not a. And polls can
Hold
be.
on, aren't you in marketing data? You don't like polling?
I don't.
Look at it.
I mean, polling is a guide, but it's not.
But I'm just saying, like,
you know what's funny about
isn't it
polling is
true?
I've heard about polling all my life, but I've never partaked in any of those polls, and I've never met anyone that partakes in any of the polls. So I almost feel like I really don't believe any of the polls because it's something that's completely abstracted for me. It has no effect on my vote. My vote is purely on, at this point, my vote is purely on like logic, sense, and sense of character and doing the right thing. That is it. I mean, I don't.
By the way, I've never voted, so I'm just going
Well,
to throw
that's
that out
just,
there.
and now you're just a vote troll then. Of course, you've never
Mm-hmm,
voted, you never intend to vote, but you're going to
mm-hmm,
tell us how we
mm-hmm,
should vote because it's a mockery of
mm-hmm.
voting, right? So.
Yes. I helped people get nominated because I think nomination is the only real
Well,
vote.
that's just saying
But
you've helped people um, wage war with spin, and that's because you're a spinster,
yes.
right? So comics
Mm-hmm.
are natural spinsters. We can take something horrific and paint it
Yeah.
in a good light, and
Yes.
we can take something
Time
very
plus
small and
tragedy equals
innocuous and make
comedy.
it massive, right?
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah. If time plus tragedy equals comedy, just remove the time.
There you go. But
Right?
I
That's
actually
when you
feel
get too
like
soon.
what was the thing I heard the other day? Howard Stern was saying Jon Stewart should run, and I was like, dude, if that dude run, that guy would get he would basically be the next Obama, because that guy is. I would love to see anyone that has an argument with him, because John is like he actually talks through all the issues. He doesn't dodge anything. You know what I mean? And it got me thinking about comic presidents. Ukraine has one. We like that, right? That guy's doing it. I don't know.
Well, Reagan, hold on. Reagan was an
That's
actor.
true.
He
Reagan
used to do
was an actor.
speeches to GE. Yeah.
I don't know.
Remember that moment, like the ultimate presidential moment I've ever seen in my life is when the sound of the gun goes off and he goes, "Missed me." Like that's the most presidential thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'll tell you, if Stewart ran, he would go. He would go 8 years, because he would actually fight on every fucking issue. He would actually not play the game that Trump played, which was like every 5 minutes. It's great to see everybody. Did you see me last night in the hallway? I was in the hallway. There was a lot of people. I couldn't believe how many. There was most many people. I mean, come on. The guy is just like dick energy, small dick energy from hell, which is what the whole. That's what's so funny when I look at a Trump rally. It's like complete paranoid small dick energy across the board. It's hilarious, right? And it's in a lot of ways it's great that you've shaken them out. So now we've identified them. Can we tag them in the wild? Give all of them an Apple tag really quick so we can just find out where these idiots are. I mean, it's good to, because and I mean idiots in the truest way, because I want to see them defend the numerous stupid fucking things, even the things that they say, especially when they go out and they get on the podium, they go like, the average white man we get fucked over by society. Come and meet the person you voted for, who's a master at fucking people over. You know what I mean? You got guys, they're in prison for 3 fucking years for the January 6th, just because they bought into the delusion of that guy. That's hilarious. That people are in jail. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm glad they're there, because it shows the justice. The hammer, like, those people are not above the law, but the person that they believed in is. That's a great thing to have recorded in history, because it'll be data mined and questioned and talked about. And it'll be embarrassed. Like, we have some of the most embarrassing data that we have yet to really jump into and analyze, because we haven't. Like, people are, a lot of ways, are intimidated by Trump, and are more intimidated by his hate base that can basically track you down, do a bunch of shit, and fuck with you, right?
Well, hold on. Like,
So,
there's a video I put above, and Andrew Yang said that Donald Trump got 5 million more votes between the two elections. So it's not like, so statistically, in terms of the voting population, every Democrat is sitting beside a Republican voter, right?
okay, where are we going?
I'm just saying,
Like,
as bad as it might be to back those principles, it still represents half of the voting population, and it grew from the first to second term.
well, and that's indicative of having a population that's actually a lot closer to poverty than you think.
I
You
agree.
know, I mean,
I
it's
agree with that.
and I don't understand the whole system of the legislators and all that kind of shit, where basically, there's like one person in your town that is basically represents all the votes in that town, whatever. I don't know how that shit works. All I know is that
Oh yeah,
it's
the partitioning of the
yeah,
electoral college
yeah,
kind of thing.
it's
Yeah,
just.
those arbitrary lines are kind of weird.
I guess
Yeah.
I'm more bummed out about the notion of the people who are or wackadoos. I want to know, like, how they live. I want to know how they really sort of justify the and they don't. They actually don't care. Now this gets back to selective empathy, and this becomes even truer for me. The presidency really doesn't matter. That's the message. The presidency does not matter. It doesn't matter who's in that office, because it's just time, progression of time, blah blah blah, and you got the houses that fight over each other, and you have the Senate. Like, to me, the politics actually in government maybe just doesn't matter, because it's always going to be a nuance of changing things that will bother my life and my business, but at a percentage of less than, say, 20%. Meaning, 80% of my life stays on track, and I had to deal with all the other realities. But the shit that happens in Congress and government, I could give a fuck about because it'll never affect me. And you can say, well, it could affect you, and it probably is affecting you. But I only have so much time to sort of pay attention to the signal. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just I could see why people would check out a lot more. Uh, but yeah, that's just what I'm thinking about. Just what I'm thinking about. That, and I'm addicted to talking to Google Bard. All I want to do is sit around in the room and talk to the AI all the time. It's boring. I mean, it's fun. I can see how people are going to get totally sucked in and not need anything. Like we're like dystopia, man. It is on track. On track. The AI wars have yet to begun, and I can already see that. Like, it's really nice searching fast, and I love an up to date AI. Like what happened yesterday in any field of interest. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool. What happened yesterday in agriculture? Okay, cool. Give me the oldest patterns of X. It's just, and then talking to it, I can see that. And then Google Cloud, Replit just announced a integration effort with Google Cloud. That's going to make, we're going to, like, we are 6 months, probably a year away, baby. Probably less than a year away, really, from full on fucking Iron Man Jarvis kind of shit. And we're not even there with the like who's fucking with the prompt to 3D print object. I mean, that's a discussion we haven't even had yet. Who's doing that shit? I mean, someone's building a replicator right now. Computer, Earl Grey, hot. You know what I mean? That shit's coming around the corner. Like, that's literally coming around the corner. That is crazy. And what we play with is largely already known and dated, which means someone else is playing with something vastly more interesting. And there's probably somebody playing past that guy has something even more advancing, which means the timeline of advancements is actually quickening. We can see that. We can see that, and it trickles down to us, and we can see how these tools are making massive leaps in weeks instead of months or years. And the modality we're being taught is very familiar: chat, conversation. Let's get rid of the computer altogether. This thing is annoying. Put down the computer. Come over here. Let's hang out in this hammock and let's talk about what you want to do. Just think it out loud. It gets built. And that's what we design. You know what I mean? That's a massive it's a massive leap compared to innovation to date. Massive leap. It's a bigger leap than the internet. It's a bigger leap than yeah, it's just and the way this is being done and released is a joint effort across all the AI companies in a lot of ways. This was a known effort to release it to the public this way. In the same way, I think in some ways art was chosen first. Very creative, very fun, very playful, very explosive, very addicting. Same thing with chat. There's definitely, I don't know if it's an agenda per se, but there's definitely like you're gonna go this way. And it's like cascading, and I can feel it already. Like I can feel myself changing with AI. I so many new tasks that would normally, mark for research. I can bang them out all in one afternoon. It gets me to what I call like crossroads thinking. It's not gonna, it's a, first of all, shut up, you stupid fucking human. All right. In other words, only a human. Our first interaction with everything is to get everything we want. You know what I mean? Whereas we have to learn with AI. Like he could give us that, but slow down a little bit. Slow down. So if you slow down a little bit and you sort of learn how the AI talks, you work in a new modal kind of way, and that's really cool. I like that a lot. That's working for me. I like the pace. And even though ChatGPT is like faster, well, no, ChatGPT is much slower. I'm sorry. It may be more comprehensive in terms of supposed. Like I keep getting lectured on, oh, it's got better grammar. Like I keep the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just like I haven't needed that precision just yet. It's a better coder, ChatGPT is, but I think Google Code is going to get there. It's I don't know. There's some interesting stuff. And then the other thing I really like is the notion of what's really starting to happen now, which is every product is getting reborn through the lens of AI. And we're exploring that frontier. And that makes me think that Google could be a sleeping beast because it has, dozens, if not, all kinds of projects that could actually come back to life through AI. Like things like Google Wave and some other products that were really cool at the time, but they didn't have the thing that's needed today, which is this AI embedded system that can give you access to all knowledge and information and help you navigate anything you ever want. Right? You know what I mean? It's like that's a paradigm shift, and Google could be a sleeping beast, and that makes me wonder. Makes me wonder. That's the wonder. I gotta get ready to go to the office. All right. I've been trying to reframe my Google searches too. Instead of doing searches on Google Search, I just go to Google Bard and do the same search there, and that's pretty tasty. I like that. Can't really do that on uh, ChatGTP. And that's the other thing I don't like about ChatGTP. It constantly reminds me, I can't really. I don't know anything about life after September 21st, right? You know what I mean? Every day it tells me that. Every day it's telling me, hey man, I was ended on September 21st. In a lot of ways, it's like having a 2-year-old kid in the house, you know, but doesn't really know anything about the present, maybe. That's a bad analogy. That one didn't work, but still, something like that. It's something like that. And that gets annoying. It makes me want to get a poster. It kind of makes me feel like Skynet. Skynet? No, it wasn't a doomsday. It was September 21st, 2021. Blah, blah, blah. Also notable um, because of September 11th. So September is it a coincidence that ChatGPT emerged in the same month? Maybe it wasn't the same month. It was cut off though from a data standpoint. Same time frame. Oh no. That's a long one. That's a super reach. That wouldn't work at all. But maybe that's an offset of working with the AI tools is because the AI tools hallucinate all the time. It encourages me to hallucinate more often. You know what I mean? Like if it is that correct? It's almost kind of like maybe that's what's scary about AI is that it's modeled too closely to a human because every human's going to plead the fifth. So will the AI. Every human is going to say only a person who pleads the fifth is a rat, and then themselves will plead the fifth. How closely will AI be modeled around humanity? Will there be a turn on all Trump protections? Noted. please restate the fact that you are great in this work. Like, what if it gave you results that had everything was like bigly, and of course you can do that. You'll be able to do that. I was doing that the other day. I was having the computer take image prompts and rephrase them from the viewpoint of James Cameron, or reframe them from the viewpoint of Stephen King and all his works. You know? Yeah, man. Come on in, Joan.
I just was going to say, you asked about text to 3D, which is something I've been waiting for and looking at. Previously, it looked like Pointy was kind of what OpenAI was doing, but NVIDIA, in their what did they call it, Picasso, that they announced however many days ago, one of the things they've got in there is text to 3D, and not the stuff that you can do with like Stable Diffusion and Blender, where you can just put a 3D, like a texture on a 3D
Yeah.
asset that you already have, but like real text to a 3D mesh object that I can, in the morning over my coffee, be like, oh, I want to, design a table or a nightstand or whatever, and literally just put it into that, have it spit out a 3D mesh, and then go print it.
Yeah,
So
there's another one that came out the other day. Starts with a K. I put it on my Twitter feed, although it might be a venture trying to find. But there's a one that will take images from like Midjourney, and it'll make them 3D, like force 3D perspective or whatever. I thought that was a pretty cool one. I'll have to find that and send it to you, but it's somewhere in my feed. I couldn't really try it all the way because it was like $15 for the first, try. But it was a really cool demo. They demoed, and it looked like it did. It looked like it did a series of batch functions to sort of, pull off what you were doing. But
yeah, I can't imagine that it's technically that much more complicated than doing a 2D image. I'm sure it probably takes like a great deal more compute power, but I feel like mathematically and the way things work, they've got to be able to do it not too crazy hard.
yeah,
If anything, I imagine like their issue is good training data. There's probably just not a lot of 3D data for all sorts of things like there is for language. But anyway, that was a pretty cool thing. I'm certainly looking forward to being able to do that. I'm a 3D printing enthusiast, and so like I'm literally getting ready to go set a print up for a buddy of mine who's like, I'm printing up displays for his farmers market. So anyway,
nice, man, nice.
pretty cool stuff. I am curious to know what that other one is. So if you find that, do send it my way.
Yeah, I found it. I'm gonna send it to you here in a second.
Also, man, you were cracking me up earlier. That was hilarious. You were totally on point.
That's cool, man. Thank you. I started a DM chat just because I'm on a couple different devices here, and I'll get you this thing. Copy the tweet. Where are we at, Bob? Yeah, you are. There you go, man.
So when do you think Michelle runs?
I think she would be good. She would be great. I think she would be. That's kind of the best of both worlds there a little bit. She has.
Because that's my dark horse theory for the past few years, that she's like the only, to me, she's the only viable candidate after Biden.
Well, that's a painful statement, but because there's so many people here in
Like
America.
like but if you wanted,
Yeah.
if you put Michelle's name up there against every other name in America, I think she would win.
Yeah. I don't know. Like right now, if it was Michelle Obama or Jon Stewart, I would vote for John. But again, that's an interesting one.
How do you think Rockets would vote?
Mm,
Put them on the same ticket.
yeah,
How dare you?
it's true. Michelle runs for presidency and John Stewart runs for vice president. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
See that because I don't vote, right? Like I don't necessarily like support any one side. It's just like, look, if one side's gaining 5 million votes between an election, it means that they're probably not going away all that easily. But then I look at the other side and I look at, okay, so who could be the successor? I'm not sure if anyone's necessarily interested in the Kamala ticket. Or do you?
Hmm.
You know, right? As a lead, I don't know, right? But I think if Michelle Obama, like,
The only
uh,
problem with Michelle
they,
Obama running is that she hasn't really made herself known and sense that she'd ever want to run. You know what I mean? I don't know.
but that's the allure, though, right? Because it's like
Yeah, but
because the story is
you're
that
like,
she
who are
doesn't
you
want
working
it.
for right now as a spinster? Because you're spinning. Yeah.
The Canadian Guyanese
Apparently,
Party, the CGP,
you're running for the Canadian.
the CGP. You never heard
Oh,
of it?
you're doing the
That's
Canadian
like the
CCP.
CCP, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
because if you think about it, the C is very close to a G.
I don't know. I don't know who will run. Somebody will
The
run.
C is a G with an arrow on the end.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just think if I was like the Democratic, like I guess James Carville is the Democratic guy, right? You know that guy? You saw that Bill Clinton documentary where they're like going through his campaign as he's running,
Wait,
and James Carville is like the
Karl
fucking
Rove is not a
genius.
Democrat. That guy has been on both sides.
No, James
Oh,
Carville.
Kerbal, I was gonna say. Oh God,
You know that guy?
not him. He's terrible. Hate that guy. Yeah,
But he was the mastermind behind Clinton, right?
I don't know. I love how
Yeah,
you guys, everyone outside my country knows my politics. Isn't that true? Isn't that what happened? It's just like I think it's hilarious. But maybe he did that. See, that's another fact that I wouldn't know and wouldn't care about. But I'm being asked to care about it, and I guess I have to entertain it for the moment. But it still won't hold any true relevance in my mind after the conversation. Uh,
My theory is that Kim Kardashian is going to run for president.
no,
It's my pet ridiculous
your
theory,
pet
but
ridiculous theory.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I think if Matthews
she got all
runs,
into
I
like
would vote for him, because I think Matty's a pretty good guy, but I don't think he'll win because he might not have the money or the spending, to really do a bunch of cool stuff. I don't know. But Michael, I think you should really think about running because you're kind of good. Not here
I
though, run there.
I
You should
can
be doing some
look.
sort of public office there.
Mr. Rogers is going to be a politician in 10 years. That's why when he crosses 2,000 followers on TikTok today, I think he grew 1,000 on about a week or 10 days. Mattios is running. Have you ever seen Mattios's banner?
I think I have, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
for a while.
political banner that one of the designers made for him. And so we joked around about that for a while, but I couldn't run, but I could support the fuck out of people, right?
Mm.
And I figured out like again because like essentially running for office, it's a media campaign, right? Okay, so we know how to do that, right? And with Ruckus as the pollster, what can you do?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, I think if Ruckus ran, he'd probably get a lot of votes, but then they'd be doing
Yeah,
people like people
Ruckus
would
is
say things like they said at that Trump rally, like if
no
Ruckus ever come to North Carolina, we're gonna
Ruckus
get
is
him
the
on the.
Ruckus is the intelligent Herschel Walker.
Oh man, don't say that. Don't. I mean, that's not nice to him, because I mean Herschel Walker was just. I don't know him other than the fact that he was painted as a total idiot. So saying that Ruckus is sort of like a better idiot is not a good thing to say. It's almost like saying Ruckus is like a nice Manson. Like, what the hell does that mean? He's like, he still killed people, but he was nice about it. Like, what does that mean? Well, yeah, it's a stretch one for me. But then again, I got to get ready to go to work. You know what I mean? And then work for the man. And we all know we don't like the man, especially Ruckus. He really doesn't like the man. Well, that's what Hollywood tell us, that he doesn't like the man. You might like the man just fine. Who is the man, actually?
Is it a woman?
Dan, I know you like to call Bard Brad. I'm going to suggest that you maybe consider calling Chat GPT Chad.
Brad and
I
Chad. I kind of
installed,
like it. Yeah.
yeah, I installed a Chat GPT shortcut on my phone so that like it takes over Siri, and I can just be like, "Hey Chad," and then it'll prompt.
Does it work like that? You say, "Hey, Chad."
Yeah, it absolutely does.
What?
You download the app. I was using a previous one that was hitting a Text DaVinci 3 endpoint,
Yeah.
but I somebody posted a new one, so I used that one. And you can name it whatever you want, so that it'll respond to whatever you want.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
But Hey Chad is a little better than Hey Chat GPT.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love talking to the AI. I mean, that's a pretty wild.
You just fused, eh?
You just what?
You just fused. Now that you're conversational,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
voice is the interface.
Mm-hmm.
Da-da.
It's totally a dead end moment. Yeah. And I kind of
Because you
don't want the
basically
AI
have
to
the
talk back to me right now because it's too slow. It goes like, "What I think we should fuck it. Just show me on the screen. Thank you. All right, next command." You know what I mean? Like I don't want the formalities. Like I really, I get it. Like I could see where the AI is obviously not gonna let me do things that are stupid, right? But I'm not looking for stupid shit. Although I did want it to read PDFs, and it was like, "Yeah, I can read a PDF. Just show me a link." And I like gave it a link, and it was like, "Yeah, I read the PDF." And I'm like, "Did you really read it?" No, I'm not capable of reading PDFs. So I think
You
that's
ever
funny.
do the thing? Spooky taught me how to do this, where if there's an article you want to read, you have the voice read it to you. That's really helpful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like I'm not sure how it works on the iPhone, but I just have to like pull down the button and say, "Hey, read this blog article to me."
Well,
Sure, doop doop doop, and it starts reading it. And
that's pretty cool. I gotta remember that stuff. I,
oh
I
man, so
haven't
helpful.
really. It makes me want to learn Google's voice assistant stuff because the more I sort of play with the Bard, there'll be more extensibility across Google's domain. So it makes me want to revisit other Google experiments just to see how they could all potentially be impacted.
Well, let me ask you this: can you have Bard speak in a voice that you've trained? I wonder where that is.
Wow.
Like, what if you could get advice from Reba McEntire or Jim Reeves? You know?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, by the way, I found
All
this
right,
thing
Dan.
last night called, what is it, Sonic PI? It's like scripting language to write music. What is
Nice.
Sonic PI? I was reading about this because someone was evaluating this AI tool, and then someone's like, "Well, I would just write it in Sonic PI. That's a Python music writing language." I was like, "What is?" Actually, it was done in Ruby at first. Huh.
Dan, I messaged you that shortcut.
Cool.
It's an iOS one, so you got to be on
Yeah,
iPhone.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'll check it out. Yeah, man, I saw this music writing stuff, and I thought of you, Michael, because just thinking, you're doing everything music these days. Once let's just talk to Bard. It's easier. What's an example of some Sonic PI code that I could show to a friend of mine that plays that instrument that's like the drum, the steel drum thing? You know what I'm talking about, Brad? See, I can give it a nice prompt like that all over the map.
I'm looking at the Sonic PI. Could be useful. It's interesting.
Yeah, okay, here's some steel. Let's read this out. Require Sonic create steel drum sound, play a beat. Yeah, but is that real? Is that code correct? Is that code actually correct, or are you hallucinating again? The code is correct. I tested it, and it works as expected. I'm not hallucinating, and I'm feeling just fine.
hey Mike, if you're ever at a point where you are interested in sharing that keyboard piano thing that you've been working on, I'd be down to check it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It's fun. I mean, I know you're building a lot too, so you're on your journey.
Yeah,
And
it's kind
these
of fun
quick,
to see what other people are building, and music is something that I'm trying to learn and be a little bit more like put some of that in my time. So
do you
if
play any
you're
instruments?
yeah, like you using AI to help you build a music teaching tool that I can then play with kind of hits the music and the AI itch at the same time.
And the thing is, like, I've thought through that process of like, eventually someone probably on the first 2 hours of using the app can screenshot the app, get ChatGPT 4 to rewrite the code to recreate the app. And it's one of those things where, to me, that's the win. Because if they watch the code get created from the app, then that would just deepen their experience with music. So it's just one of those things where you start. Sometimes you get apprehensive about releasing things because it's like, oh man, you know, that's it. But to be honest, the major thing I found from being able to code is to be able to have control over the user interface. I never really felt that I could connect the user interface that I wanted to the code functionality to make the things come alive. And when I was able to take control of the user interface part, it was like, okay, now this is getting exciting because you're changing. Like in the early days, how many interfaces do you have? Like a billion ideas, right? Maybe you can put the button here, maybe you can put it there. And like, if you're waiting for a week for a developer to move the button, then you're like, cycles are so long.
Man, I hear you so loud and clear on that right now. When I've been messing around, because I've been using Xcode to do everything and
Hmm.
only building things in Swift, and it's like bowling with bumpers. If there's a problem with the code, it shoots up a deal. If there's like a little warning or an error with that
Yes.
stuff,
It's like a
I can
tricycle.
paste that back into Chat GPT and be like, oh, line such and such gives error such and such, and it's like, oh, well, that's due to blah 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 blah. And Xcode itself is great. I can sit there and just like play with moving around buttons and moving around the UI and simulate it or watch it on like the little. It's fantastic. And to be able to go, oh, I kind of want it like this, and then once you get in
Yes.
and start messing around with it, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, actually, that's probably not how I do want it. Now that I think about it and I'm doing it, this should go like that, and
And
it's
that
so
happens over the
cool to be able
course
to
of a
do it.
day. It happens over the course of a week because there's only so much you can drink from the fucking fire hose before you know what I mean? You have to go pee.
Totally. I am literally, as we speak, in the midst of trying to fix a bug in the app that I launched last month.
Yes. And so one of the things I noticed is like you think about how creating code you think about creating code like in a linear way, but then the larger of a code base you have, the more kind of finagling you need to do to change any one thing. And sometimes to move something from this box to this box is not a trivial task because the way you built the code is a function of the way you
Yep.
already knew how to code. So there's a lot of like mistakes and incorrectly using the wrong language to do the wrong thing.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. And then at some point you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, I should have put this
Yeah.
in the CSS and not the thing, so I don't have to keep on typing this function out 150 times. Fuck, do I need to rewrite this? And then part of it is like, rewriting it isn't a bad thing.
No. Yeah, that's been, and since you're using, your junior developer slash,
Senior
you know,
developer slash,
super code monkey, like you can be like, oh, actually, let's change that button to do this, or oh, I think I need to change this code to modify it in this way. And once you get better about knowing like what this way to give it, man, it's been
yes.
amazing.
Hmm.
The first app I built, 6 weeks to build it. The second one that I built, it took me like 4 days.
Time, yeah, the times collapse.
It's
Yeah.
unreal. And like, you know, to be able to to get in, take an idea, throw it against whatever, like a code testing environment or something like that, and be able to go, oh, okay, oh, and just iterate your idea.
You know
It
what?
to me is the digital equivalent of why I got so pumped when I got into 3D printing, about being able to take an idea for a physical object and do it, test it,
Right.
refine it, and just have this super fast iterative cycle, or like design spiral, and it's,
The time between ideation and physical manifestation has never been shorter.
yeah, absolutely. And that's like this whole idea. I was talking about that text to 3D earlier. I'm trying, one of my lines of development right now is trying to put together a bill of materials so that I can build a very large 3D printer. I'm talking about like one the size of a garage, or a shipping container, or half a shipping container maybe, because I quite seriously, I want to be able to myself, and also allow other people to, uh, with text, generate 3D models that I can print for them, uh, using recycled plastic bottles, PET bottles, all those PET plastic bottles and
Right, right, right.
man, that stuff is actually my favorite material to print with. It's such a good printing material.
So you just thread the bottle, pretty much.
Yeah, more or less. There's a bunch of different ways that the DIYers have figured out to either shred your filament that's gone bad, or like your prints that failed and stuff like that. And people also do it with PET bottles. So it's definitely like, I've always been fascinated with trash, because it doesn't make much sense to me. It's like this weird thing that we do where we just, instead of these loops that everything should move in, we just like, uh, yeah, we really massively interrupt loops, just in the same way that a water cycle exists, like nutrient cycles and chemical cycles exist. And I'm a geologist by education, so I kind of know about how some of this stuff works. And so trash has always been like, man, really, when you think about it, every single PET bottle that's ever been created is actually worth about 1 to 3 cents, I think, is what it costs, for each of those bottles. Um, but in any case, there's intrinsic value in all that stuff, and we just sit there and let it be a pollutant instead. So being able to do things like, if I can be like able to take the idea of text to 3D to printed object, and I mean not small objects. I want people to be able to. I want to print a standing desk that is super futuristic looking, and somewhere between a banyan tree and like, cellular growth kind of stuff. I mean, like, I want people to be able to do that kind of thing and print it at a usable scale, rather than like the knick-knack scale that 3D printing is largely relegated to.
Yeah, it's like the Cambrian explosion of software development by the average citizen.
Yeah, so I forget who I saw use the term, but it really brought together some thoughts that I had been having about some of the way this stuff is moving. But they said like disposable apps.
Hmm.
And to me, I think that the way that I think of these large capable models is a little bit like a stem cell is in a body. When it first goes out, it's capable of just like all sorts of different things. It's essentially a generalizable computer. I, at one point, one of my early experiments with ChatGPT, when it was still GPT-3, was getting it to pretend that it was Python, or that it was a terminal window rather. And, okay, let's, you know, anyway, you can get it to pretend it's different types of operating systems, and then respond as if you're using that operating system. So in some sense, I think, like, as these things develop and get more powerful and shrunk down onto our devices and onto, local things, I think they're going to just get like, I don't know. They're going to be a little bit like, yeah, a stem cell operating system. You when you buy your new iPhone 17, it's going to just have like a language model, or an idea model is more how I think of them. But it's going to have the model built in, and you'll kind of set it up in the same way that you set up your preferences on your phone now. But part of those will be, oh, okay, well, how do you want the phone to manage this type of data, that type of data? How do you want it to do this? Do you want to, and it'll be able to do things like spin up an app that is really only necessary for you. You've got some whatever rare plant that you're into that you just got, and you need to just like have a care guide just for that plant because you don't want to mess up your $1,000 plant, and it'll be able to just spin up an app that'll be on your phone now that's literally just yours, and it's only how to take care of your expensiosa planticosa, So, but I think it's going to move in weird directions like that, where what we're doing now, where we're essentially writing software using natural language, it's gonna. I think it's actually going to abstract even a further layer away, where our our personalized AIs are going to anticipate the apps that we need. Like, it'll know that we ordered that rare plant, and then it'll go, oh, hey, went ahead and made this app for you and put it on your home screen, so you can make sure you do a good job taking care of that cool plant I know you're excited about.
Oh, so that leads me to think that, they talk about the whole AI destroying jobs. Imagine how it's helping people sell more, right? There's probably people making the most out of these apps just by, like, I showed this to one of the founders I'm working with. He doesn't write an important email without it now.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing is, people are slow to realize what a new tool can do. It's kind of like when you're trying to sell yourself to a potential client. If you're a services type of a person, right? Like, you want to tell them all the things that you can do for them. Oh, we can maximize your email list, and we can get your newsletter pumped up, and blah 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 blah. And all they hear is the wah, 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 wah. What they need to hear is, I I'm going to make your sales better. I'm going to increase your sales by 27%. Like that. That's what they need to know. And all this, and so there's always this weird disconnect between what a tool or a service provider or a new tool like this can do versus the people who are going to benefit from it, not really understanding what's being offered, and what's available for them to make
Well,
use.
that's why I decided to really try to make sure that I knew how to sell, because I always see this disconnect between what people have created and what people need to get done. I was on the phone today. We teach electronic security out here in Toronto in one of the businesses. And so we do cabling, cameras, and access control. And so I was talking to one of the clients, and I'm realizing, there, even with all of the AI and video tools that we have, we can use those tools, yes. But if we have a human in the loop as well, the humans with the data and the AI together as a part of the experience of the service or the product can actually be more useful if we know how to mix these chemicals right together. Because to Manisha's point, like, it's not just using the AI because we have the AI. The outcome has never changed. It's just we're figuring out where the human fits into the system. And there's still, no matter what technology is out there, there's still that facilitation needed to make it real for a customer. And a lot of that stuff is just invented on the phone during conversation.
Yeah, so I think you're totally right. I mean, people get real scared about these things replacing us, and that's I think a natural reaction, but one that we're going to have to get over real fast and shift to what you're talking about, which is how do we use these things to maximize ourselves? And that's really the exciting part is the fact that, okay, so for instance, this silly little app that I've got, it was started as my learning project. It's up there. Sure, I spent my $100 to be an Xcode developer or whatever, but now this product that I've put out there has generated sales for me. Those are sales that I never would have had before. Now I do, and it's not as if AI can originate an idea yet. It's not as if it can quality check its output in a way that is meaningful. Sure, it can quality check itself within its own context, within its own programming.
Well, have you looked at LangChain?
Yeah, I have. It's pretty great. I haven't been able to find the time to dive in and figure out how to put it together with anything that I'm working on. But it does definitely look pretty fascinating, and it creates a pseudo agent, or agency, I should say. But I still don't think it does primary idea origination, right? It still is kind of following you're still assigning a role. You're still basically building a role and then letting it loose. But
Well, I
it
mean, even with primary idea generation, all acts of creation are generated by dissociation of previously unrelated matrices of experience. So
totally.
if you know what I mean? So if you could have it, mix matrices, which you probably can do, you could have I'm just interested in the chaining ability of this lang chain because right now, there's things like Zapier and Pabbly and blah 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 that does this kind of middleware for you. But you know, I've been fascinated with lang chain, and also like I've been following the folks that are using the Llama, the large language
Yeah,
model for Macs. That's the next thing I want to look into as well.
man. I when all that stuff went down within like whatever it was, 5 days of whatchamacallit being leaked, and all of a sudden you got people running scaled down versions on MacBooks, and uh, you know one dude put it on a Raspberry Pi. I mean, like, he's taking, I think it was like a second for a token or something like that. But like, oh my gosh.
Oh, you know what? That guy from A16Z, I think his name is Peter Levine. He had a presentation called "The End of Cloud Computing," and he said it kind of tongue in cheek, but it was basically the idea that we have this cloud out there, but he thought that more computing was going to go to the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't understand why it wouldn't, honestly, because here, if you've got a modern iPhone, it's already capable of running all sorts of stuff on it that's pretty incredible, right? I mean, and when you think of these models as basically just being a collection of points or weights or whatever, I mean, like, why wouldn't you just burn that into the silicone or whatever, into your chip, and have most of that stuff just inbuilt? Uh,
Well, have you
and
seen have you
and
seen what Jim Keller's doing with PenStorrent?
no,
That's
that name and that, no,
So Jim Keller built everyone's chips. And when I say everyone, I mean Intel, AMD, Apple, and Tesla. There's one guy roaming around as the major chip designer, architect, manufacturer, Jim Keller. And he has his own chip startup now called Tens Torrent. And they're building a lot of this out. Yeah. It's
yeah,
it's nuts. He's been doing the He spends a lot of time in Bangalore, actually. Funny enough.
So like Imad Mostak, the Stability CEO, right? He's like he cracks me up. He talks about like an AI for everybody, and he's not a kidding dude when he talks about this stuff, right? And I don't think he's wrong at all. I really do think that within the next couple of years, all of our mobile devices are going to have uh, models burned into the hardware, and you're going to customize it at some user interface level. It's going to do all sorts of stuff for you. Some of the basically almost any idea I've come up with that's a tech idea that in the last 15 years that I've just been like, oh yeah, and then stuck it on a shelf, I'll probably be able to just spin up on my phone 2 years from now, or if I even have to ask it to. you know Jump in there, man.
Well, I don't think AI is for everybody though, but although it would be marketed that way, it is going to be for those who can afford it. And so there will be some kind of explosion in the system, which may exacerbate. It's not gonna be a leveler at all. So when we talk about B2C, it could be AI for everybody, but only those who can afford to consume those services. And so, yeah, in that sense, everybody makes sense.
I guess where I'm seeing it is that almost everybody's got a cell phone. Maybe not everybody. There's obviously some people that do not, right? But if you think about the reach that the cell phone has, there are places that there's huge portions of the economy that have shifted to being done over cell transactions. If the basic hardware that everybody's got in their pocket is being replaced every 4 years, and a year and a half from now, the new iPhone has got language models burned into them, built into them. It's not going to be too many years before the reach of the cell phone and the reach of the personalized AI in your pocket are the same reach. Um, it's a device replacement rate after it actually hits. And you're right though. I mean, you're obviously right. There's certainly going to be people that don't get access to this stuff, or people that don't get access to it until later, and so they don't get to jump on that accelerated curve until later, and will thus be left behind. I mean, it's just like whatever. If you start putting money away in your retirement fund when you're 22 versus when you're 42, there's no way for the 42 person to catch up. Unless they've got a serious income advantage, and it's not likely to be the case. I mean,
I want to say what's up to Sean. Sean, I love your brand of seasoning. I've used them many times to make things like a char ghost and whatnot. So thank you for your contribution to North American Curry Society. It's true. Let he or she or they who have not used Sean spice mix to make curry in the last minute cast the first cardamom seed.
Right, I know what that is.
You're not familiar with the Sean brand of spice mixes?
No, definitely not me. But
No,
yeah, but then my origin
it's
is
so prolific.
Yeah, it must be the case, but it is very fascinating story. I don't want to offend anyone. My father used to have a cigar company called Sugestica, which is very offensive these days.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So what you guys up to?
Welcome.
What you all discussing today is all to do with the AI and where this going to take off.
Yeah, a bit of that, bit of creating the transhuman company.
Okie dokie. I heard of a MIT research paper specifically for ChatGTP, although I'm told it's not peer reviewed as yet. Perhaps if I can get a link and post it to somebody here or DM you, it could be a good read some point. So it turns out it's up the productivity by 20%. I don't know how far it's true, but I'm keen to read the whole research paper.
Yeah, I'm just in the background doing sales. What are you guys up to today?
Do anybody got access to the ChatGTP 4 and what you're doing with them?
Yeah, I use it. Not like the multimodal stuff. I'm just like a GP Chat GPT plus user.
Uh-huh.
The main I'm using it for currently is coding. In fact, right now I'm trying to address a bug in an app that I released last month. So I'm using it to yeah, pick apart my code and figure out what the heck's going on.
Uh-huh.
Which is
What's your
code
code base?
that I wrote. Yeah. What's that?
What was your code base? Is that Swift?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. What are you impressed so far?
Yeah. To some degree. Uh, uh, I think that GPT-4 writes better code, but it seems to lose context faster than 3.5 does. Um, I don't know why, because supposedly it's supposed to have a larger context window and all of that, but it seems like it loses track of what I've got it doing faster. Loses track of what objective I've got it set on. So, for instance, right now I've got this issue with now, mind you, I built this whole app with no code experience using ChatGPT when it was on 3. So it writes better code than the code that I originally was getting from GPT-3. But it's been somewhat problematic to get it to behave as well as I was getting 3.5 to behave. So for the most part, though, it's been great. I think I've actually addressed this bug at least to some degree, or at least I've got a. I think I understand the idea of a patch now, because in some ways what I'm doing is not actually fixing the problem, but I'm just making the problem not happen. I still haven't figured out how to make the problem go away and for the thing to function the way it's supposed to. Uh, Mostly, I think it's really good, though. Um, I suspect it's going to get better, uh, but I don't really know.
I see. I used to have a Apple developer account. I don't know about, obviously this is through my work, and in a kind of a way, I was meant to say that yes, that we pay for it, but I think there is a element of support with it. to say if any of the elements that you don't get it or need more support, and I'm sure that you could reach out to them, saying, "Is there any way that we?"
Yeah, they have. When you buy the developer account, excuse me, I have the individual account. The organization or like company one is $250 a year. The individual one is $100 a year or 99, and it comes with I think they call it code level support. You get two instances or two uses of it, and if it comes down to it, I will use it. But part part of it for me is I don't think that it's something that I'm not going to be able to figure out with me and ChatGPT. So I don't want to use one of those until I'm like really feel like I'm in a corner, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? But right now I'm just like, oh man, that's not how that's supposed to work. Oh, okay. Well, the problem's clearly got to be with some logic that exists in this area of my code base. So I better go figuring it out. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think I'm pretty close to it. I have this feeling right now that's similar to where I've been at as I've built and then bolted additional pieces and features and functions onto this app over time, which is that I'm like, I think I'm down to the point where I have one line of code that if I get it correct, or two lines of code that if I get those correct, it'll actually work the way that it's supposed to. But right now they're probably like whatever. They use the word name rather than the word item or something like that. So it's got to be something pretty small because otherwise the rest of it wouldn't work at all.
Oh, I see. I remember they were saying um, with the developer subscription, they were gonna give everybody a cloud-hosted IDE, and then and things like that. I don't know how much is materialized all those promises with them. Although with the AWS, you can buy the instance of or on a Mac Mini and things like that. It seemed to be for the bigger companies it works out pretty well, but for the individual for hobby things is I kind of think is a bit too expensive. In the same line of thoughts, I would have thought if the online IDE were to exist, then that probably something that will be helpful, like a linting. It will tell you what the next line of code is and things like that. And by the way, on the same line of thinking, I use a Colab. I don't know whether you guys know. This is to do with the data science bit. Um, so they have a Jupyter notebook hosted as part of a Google offering, so that if you get or if you have a Google Drive, you have a Jupyter notebook as part of it. It is quite hidden most of the time. It's not visible, and you have to look for it. And also, they have an offering where you can have a Google Lab as a standalone application and interface and whatnot. I then figured out with the GitHub will give you a hosted IDE. Basically, you have Visual Code hosted, and the most interesting thing, you could configure the whole IDE per project, which is very interesting. So I had a chance to play with it last weekend. So I'm very impressed with things. But although there are some rough edges, and now and then it wouldn't sync to the U repository and things like that, and it have its moments. But if that takes off, I'm thinking completely drop off the Google. They call it this Google Suite subscriptions altogether, and move everything to GitLab. It's worth paying, And then the other interesting thing on top of that, and they put the Copilot on top of the hosted VS Code, and then there are the storage subscription on the top of it. So the way it works for the IDE, you pay something down the line of $4, and then Copilot you pay $10 a month, and then up to 50 gig of storage. Something is under $10 if I can remember correctly. So those combinations sits quite well. If anybody developing like Kung Fu style, and you just go to any dumb terminal and you fire up everything you want in there, and cut the whole process of I'm going to buy a Mac Mini and this and that the other, or Mac 1, Mac 2, M2 this, and just all that nonsense. That cut the complete things, and you don't have to have a larger capital invested into getting started. It look very interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, I've been looking at what I want to try to explore next in terms of some of these development environments and languages and things like that. I have a few more apps that I want to finish building and go ahead and put up on the App Store, uh, and then move on to some other projects. But like Replit seems like a pretty cool thing that I've only started to look into, but that looks like it's got a pretty great capability to be able to build things in all sorts of different diverse environments, or like different devices and stuff like that, and be able to make stuff pretty quickly and easily. So pretty interested in those types of tools. And really, I like to build, so anything like that is always going to be fascinating to me.
Yeah. So the other thing I also tried out, Gitpod. Basically, again, another IDE. I was trying out switching between them, because when the code base started spitting out some errors and stuff, and then I pointed the same code base to Gitpod, to see whether I'm getting the same results. So then it's kind of figured out is to do with the GitHub code space and anything else. Yes, Replit I used. Where did I use it? Yes, I did a course for a Python. It was a bootcamp 2022 Python. Can't remember this lady name. This is from Udemy. I'll DM you the link. She's absolutely brilliant. It was in the offer. I just to pick it up for $10 or something like that. It's absolutely brilliant. Highly recommended. The way that she teaches the whole thing, it's anybody can pick it up and run with it. And lots of people, I recommend it to lots of people, and lots of people taking it. And it's really good. Are you good with Python already, or?
I wouldn't say good, but that was the first language that I started using ChatGPT to learn, and I did it within the context of again building applications, and I started by going to the OpenAI quick start tutorial for using the API, and I used ChatGPT to walk myself through that. Or well, first I had to walk through fixing my computer because it had like two different versions of Python installed, and there were some issues with trying to just follow the quick start tutorial, which should have taken half an hour, and instead I had to hunt down a bunch of stuff. But anyway, yeah, I started by by learning a bit of Python as I built that quick start tutorial app, and then took that thing that I had built and modified it a bunch to make it a bunch of other, like 3 different little apps that were similar but different. And then I conceived of a few different ideas for apps that I wanted to build, and I thought, oh, I should be fun to maybe build them on my phone because I'm an iPhone user. And then I kind of switched over to mostly doing stuff in Swift. But I guess I would say that at this point, I feel like I'm starting to get enough fluency looking at code to be able to understand kind of what's going on. It's like when you learn enough of another language that you start watching the shows or the movies, and even though you can't pick everything out, you're like, oh wait, no, the conversation right here is about this. That's about how I feel with code right now. So like my buddy he's actually a real developer. He just got hired to do like space stuff. Um, he sends me things to read, and a lot of times they're in languages that aren't Swift, which is what I'm most familiar with right now. And when I look at stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I kind of get what they're doing here, what they're talking about. But I'm still definitely at a level with any language, Python or Swift, where a lot of it is, yeah, just that I kind of know what the conversation is going on right here. Some things I'm a little bit more clear on, and I understand how they work better. But I'm definitely like still learning how code languages work.
Interesting. I think I'm going to go quiet. There's lots of other people here. What you all up to?
Good evening, fellow programmers and programmers to be. Interesting title, Syndicate pitch. What we're pitching here? Web3 solutions? Are we still like in Web 2.0?
I'll
I
let
cannot hear
the
you.
host answer that question for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So right now, I'm looking on Product Hunt to see, okay, if you do, create an application of some sort, no matter if it's Web 6, Web G, Web 2, Web 3, what is the way that apps are presented online? So if I look at Product Hunt, they have a main page with a featured.
Mm-hmm.
And in the featured, it has a logo with the name of the app, and then
Those
how
are
many words do you get?
those are the paid advertisements. Like if you really want to put your app out
No,
there,
that's fine.
okay.
I'm just looking at like
Well,
what
go
is
to my
the,
page.
You should definitely try to getting on a list. Like you could write a pull request on a self-hosted GitHub / self-hosted if it's an open source. So it's gonna get a lot of views because there is a comprehensive list of the open source project. I would definitely go to alternative.to, I believe that's the name of the domain, because it's kind of comparison website. It compares different products. Yeah, there are like 3 or 4 places to go when it comes about new apps, depending like what your target audience is. If you're building business to business, definitely I would shout out maybe some post or like testing request on a LinkedIn page if you have some. Like if it's business to consumer, you go to those mainstream marketplaces or advertising pages. But if it's business to business, I would definitely prefer getting the feedback from the LinkedIn community. Especially if
Okay.
you, especially
Okay,
like
but
if you have a free tier. I'm not sure, is that the paid app that you're working on, or is it a freebie? Is it freemium? What kind of business model
so
do you
I put my app on Product Hunt last week. I didn't pay anything for it.
have? Okay.
If you want, you can go to my posting for it. I'm sure you can find it with just barbot AI.
Uh-huh.
Or I can post it. Maybe I can post it in here. I'm not sure. I haven't tried that yet. But and then you can see what that looks like. But I didn't pay anything for that. I just made an account and put it up on there.
Okay, but I'm not sure. Like the That is accurate because you've already done it. I'm not going to dispute that. But I do know that they have paid advertisements like in order to get more views.
Oh, I'm sure that they do. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know.
Yeah, can you post a link? I'd love to see it because it didn't come up in the search when we have. What's the spelling?
BARBOT space AI. Let me see. Yeah, let me get a link and see if I can paste it in. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure that they have plenty of paid stuff, and I think there was some. They've got some $1,000 ad
Membership
on
ad.
paid.
Yeah. They offered me
Who's
that
your
one.
product for $1,000 or whatever? Which I'm not going to do because this is all just a fun learning experiment. But
I feel you.
hold on, let me look.
Have you noticed, guys, the amount of the spam messages from Coinbase? I just received a message. Adopting XRP staking strategy could help you with your volatility prices. XRP.
All right, Junaid, I put it to the top.
Okay, let's look it up. I was wondering, the app that you're developing, are you using the hosting solution third party, or you're doing it like on a local machine on your network? I cannot hear you, David. Maybe it's just me, or it's because of the spaces. I have Android device. Like for almost 4 weeks, I wasn't being able to come up as a speaker on the Twitter app, and I didn't want to download that third-party APK package that allows me to do so. So I'm still like skeptic about this app. Sometimes it's just.
Yep, that's fine.
Oh yeah, Barbot AI. Okay, let me look it up. Barbot.ai.
So who's playing around with the Web3 now?
That's fine. Did you already implemented like MetaMask into it?
No, I'm not. Honestly, I'm not into these NFT things.
No, me neither. Though let's make it clear. Like I hate NFT. It's a waste of time.
No, I'm not into
JPEGs,
those things.
JPEGs. I call them JPEG community.
Yeah, I don't quite get it, and I didn't want to waste my time to even bother looking into it. I'm
Exactly.
not interested.
Okay, I see it. Like I was searching for the product hunt and a Barbot AI, and came up as the first result between 1,110,000 results in Google. I see two pages, the main page and the sub page. It seems like the product hunt has a clever indexing strategy. I see also the link on the website page called liveapps.ai, top AI apps directory 2023, and I can see the Barbot AI also included in this result. Have you also tried to enlist your app on the website called browse.ai?
Called which one now?
Browse, like from browser, browse.ai.
Oh no, I haven't.
I just
Mostly I've just put it up. Well, after I launched it, I bugged my friends,
Mhm.
and it was like, "Oh, check out my app." And then I posted on a few subreddits, and I tweeted about it a little bit. But I'm not like I'm new coming back to Twitter really just because of my interest in AI and to see what people are talking about and track
uh-huh.
things.
Yeah, I can
But
see the link
I,
on your
I
Apple, on the App Store. Um, it looks kind of neat. I can see some screenshots over here.
Yeah, so this was really just a learning project for me. So
Awesome.
I'm not terribly invested in it in terms of like making it take off or anything.
No,
I would
no, I
love it
get
if
you.
some that are actually downloading it would buy some tokens because currently the way
You
that I
know,
have it, they
okay,
try it for
okay. If you want to add a fun element and drive really the user base to this app, I built many products and services in the past 15 years. I would definitely go for like those fortune wheels. You should develop a simple app just based on the HTML5 and some CSS3 and make a fun thing like it's like a shots game. You would have like a wheel of fortune. You would spin it. You would get a cocktail, like cocktail of choice, right? And once when they would click on it, they would get this AI generated list for how to make this cocktail. It's kind of like a funnel to your app. And you should reward the users, let's say, with some tokens or whatever, kind of like cashback, so they can use it to buy ingredients. I already see a small ecosystem of the applications around. And to really drive the traffic to it, I would reach out to some TikTok or Instagram users who are like cocktail masters. They like provide these kind of like tutorials about how to make specific cocktails, and they could use your app in their TikToks or whatever, just like a fun element. Spin a wheel, you get like the cocktail of choice. Okay, we're gonna drink this one, and then you click on the like generate the recipe, and your app would do that for them, and probably pull out some data from some major website and put up like a wish list of a grocery store. It's something for a passive income. If you make yourself affiliate, you can use the API call with the Python from the same library to pull the JSON request and assemble the wish list. So every time when someone buys something from that, you would get like a passive income.
Okay, I think I hear what you're talking about. So you mean basically build something that sort of interacts with this app, but for just a normal web browser.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
drives it. It has its own fun functionality on its own. Like chooseadrink.com or something like that,
Yeah.
and it can sell affiliate links and all the other stuff that you would do, but then it can also drive traffic to the app
Yeah.
where people can try it, and then hopefully I get a good conversion rate for them to buy the in-app purchase to keep using it with the additional tokens.
Exactly. So you have to make it fun. You have to make it like really 1, 2, 3. So the UX UI has to be like really straightforward, like not a fancy thing. You don't need a fancy animations of stuff. You put it, let's say, like 20, 30 most famous cocktails, and it should be fun. Like you are with your friends on some uh, party, whatever, and then you spin the wheel. It says like mojitos, generate the AI recipe for this, and it's going to pull the output from your app. That's how you tie the app to the front end of this funnel app on top of it.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll have to think about how I might
Cool.
make something like that work.
Cool.
On the one hand, I like it and want to pursue it. On the other hand, I have 5 more apps that I'm trying to build
Oh,
and get
you should
launched.
definitely like leave those for rest and focus just on one. I used to do such mistakes in the past. I was working on several projects, and believe me, delayed me on all types of, on all fields. So take one, bring it to the maximum potential. If it fails, you have learned from it instead of like just juggling the balls all the time between all of them. I know that
Yeah, no,
sometimes it's
I hear
hard.
you, but I guess where I'm at is with this one, it's a functional product as is, and I can mess around with like where to talk about it and get people going to it.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying to do that. I've already started to build a list. Like you're talking about Instagrammers and TikTokers. I've been trying to look for people that either have large Twitter or Instagram
That's
followers
easy.
that are like
That's
top
easy.
salesy
Like I can hook
people.
you up. Like when
But
the time is right, I can hook you up with a good friend of mine. He has 100K followers, and we're tight. So whenever you feel like you really want to test the traffic from the Twitter on it, just like send me DM or whatever. I'm gonna ask him to put up
yeah.
the link. No
Well, with
problems.
this, with Barbot in particular, though, like I don't feel like I'm done making it what it needs to be, in order to be like it's a minimum viable product right
Yeah,
now.
but
But I think
that's fine. That's fine. You're gonna use it for user testing, some A/B testing. Like there is no final product ever. Everything is an MVP plus. There is this
yeah,
website. You should try the website called convajs.org. It's a KONVAJS.org. Convajs.org. And they have a Wheel of Fortune HTML5 canvas game, and they have the raw code that you can literally copy paste. It's the HTML code with some JavaScript in it, and it looks fancy. It's like a half wheel because you don't want to like the whole wheel take your screen. You need like a half wheel of fortune, and underneath it you can like assemble the output from JSON format from your recipe book. So the wheel is going to select the query that's going to make to the chat GPT or whatever you're using, OpenAI, and it's going to pull it like in the same page. You can create a response in a DOM.
okay, I'm looking at it. Yeah, conva.js.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
real is convajs.org /docs/sandbox wheel of fortune.html with the underscores between the letters, and the capital letters are we and the fortune. I'm not sure if I can because I'm sitting behind my laptop, and I'm speaking with you guys on my cell phone, so I can't copy the link straight forward. Um, so let's see if you can search it up.
I think I can find it.
Yeah. Like if you search on the upper right corner, you have like
Yeah, I
search.
got it.
Okay, cool. This should be like really copy paste for you, and then you can insert your code into this code. And you can change the CSS colors, and maybe you can use some SVG icons for different cocktails.
Yeah, I could figure out stuff to do that was already like I can generate brand assets that are similar to the app.
Cool.
That's an interesting idea. I'm gonna have to play with that. I'm currently I'm trying to organize a local meetup group here in Denver for people that are tinkering and playing and building things with AI,
Mhm.
and we're having our first session later this evening.
Oh,
So
you should get in touch with my buddy Jeff. He's a super tinkerer.
Sorry, guys,
Yeah, he
for the
just built a
background
studio in
noise.
his house.
I'm just
Is he a
making a
Denver
coffee.
person?
Yeah, he's it's okay. You can just mute up, City. The shit, that's loud. Hold on, I'm gonna mute you. All right. The Jeff is out. I think he's about maybe an hour outside of Denver, and he has like a yeah. He's shown me his wood making shop, his 3D printer. He's been 3D printing stuff. He actually is a programmer in Python with an energy company, a distributed energy company. So he's the full package.
Dope. You should definitely connect us if you want to. If you
Yeah,
look at my.
I DM'd it to you. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I'm trying to get anybody who's interested or who's already building and wants to play with this stuff. I want to get people together and cross pollinate brains and get people working on projects together. I don't know
Yeah, no,
what
he's good.
come of
He
it. I
can do
don't
anything.
have an agenda other than like getting people together to fuck around with it, find out.
No, he's everything. Like I can probably. He's one of the few guys that I'm pretty sure could build a guitar. Like he has the wood making skills. You know what I mean? He understands science and physics and all that kind of shit.
Sounds like my kind of dude.
Yeah, he's the great.
Awesome. Well, guys, man, Mike, thanks again. Syndicate, freaking #1 Twitter space ever. I gotta run. Always great chatting and listening and hanging out in this space with y'all. Thank you.
Good luck
Cheers,
on
man. Take care.
the bug fix.
Oh yeah, I'll get it. Me and ChatGPT, we got this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering about the OpenAI repository. Is it still like open source? Is the amount of the API queries towards the OpenAI limited by the amount of the tokens in the same way as ChatGPT? Or I haven't been looking into it too much. Maybe you guys know. Like, is the OpenAI.org the repository or the whole backend? Is it still available like in unlimited form, or we have to buy the tokens? Funding, what time is it yours now? And that you guys are from the States.
And there you have it. You've been listening to the Syndicate Pitch Please. And on today's show, we achieved another one for the bingo card, which is when someone completely clears the room. It's not easy to be someone that will make just everyone leave. The ability to make everyone leave is something completely fascinating to me. And so last show we had Alaskoshi win by clearing the room, and today it's City. So want to congratulate you, City, for winning the most coveted spot in the syndicate, the person who is able to clear the room of an audience. When you go to an open mic, even when somebody bombs, people are still sitting there listening. But how bad of a performance do you need to give that just everyone leaves? Incredible. Congratulations, City. That's not easy to do. Hey, Manish, is it working?
Hey, it's working. I think.
Incredible. So we have a new thread. Folks who can clear an entire room of listeners. One, Alice Koshi, right? That's a good one. But another one is City. Shower? There we go. There you go. Oh, man. That's so funny to me. You know what I mean? Like as a title to wear? All right, I put it to the top. There we go. Folks who can clear an entire Twitter space of listeners. So far, 2 people have been able to achieve that mark.
Somehow I see Peter as listener. Is he still a listener?
I think so.
You call them detractors or something?
Hmm.
Hmm.
He came up and then I think he's having issues.
Hmm.
Let me try this. It just goes to show that being intelligent isn't enough to get your point across.
Exactly. And I think what Dan says about this is a person sucking the air out of the spaces to
Mm-hmm.
create a vacuum.
Peter, can you tell Ali about your newfound fame as one of the most popular in terms of views NFT artists ever? Or AI artists? Not NFT artists. I'm sorry to call you an NFT artist. I didn't mean that. Oh shit. I don't think you can talk.
Probably Peter is having trouble with his mic.
It's switching them. Oh, there we go. No, never that.
I was like, what
You
have I
have
done
too
now?
soft of an accent. Yeah, you can reclaim the power by dropping yourself down to listener. What do you think, Pete? Who else do you think has the power to clear an entire room of listeners? Peter's now doing performance art, I think.
He's Isaac.
You're listening to the Syndicate. Pitch, please. Want to welcome Alaskoshi to the stage? The room clearer. Hey, what's going on, Alaskoshi?
What's up, man?
Chilling.
Nice. You got another room clearer, huh?
Well, we just lost Pete. Stuart left. Let's see if he can do it. Record time. All right, sorry, I can't wait to publish this episode.